Part 19. Martial Arts, Become Invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 181. The poster has received another mission to assassinate Xiaowaji. In a stronghold of Kishalu, a figure knelt on one knee behind an old man and said respectfully. The old man stood with his hands behind his hands, stood by the window, looked up at the moon in the sky, and said, "Who is the employer? How much is the bonus?" The person behind him replied, "The employer is from the Li family, and the bonus is 500,000 taels of silver. If you include the one from the demon cult, the total is 1,000,000 taels of silver. There is another hidden plot worth 200,000 taels of silver, and the target is Xiaowaji's fiancée Su Weiner. 1,000,000 taels of silver. This Xiaowaji's head is really valuable, which makes me a little excited," the host said with a smile. "Such a price is enough to make some old guys feel itchy. Please pass on the bounty mission." "Yes, I obey." Just as his subordinates were about to retreat, they heard the poster say, "Send a copy of this news to Xiaowaji, including the identity of the employer behind the scenes." Ah! The subordinates were stunned for a moment and didn't react. They thought they heard wrongly. As a killer organization, Kishalu's confidentiality is the most basic requirement. No matter what, no clues about the employer or the mission can be revealed, let alone the general. The assassination information and the identity of the employer were informed to the target himself. The subordinates stared blankly at the poster's back, not knowing what to do for a moment. Because the poster's order at this moment was obviously breaking the rules. There are 7 posters in the Kisha Tower. The building owner is just one of them. But even if he is one of the 7 most powerful people, he cannot break the rules. Once something happens, he will be attacked by the other 6 people. The reason why the Kisha Tower has been able to stand for many years is because follow the rules. No matter what, the rules cannot be broken. How? Is there something wrong with my order? 20. The voice of the host suddenly became deeper, and a murderous aura loomed around his men. No. No, my subordinates know it and they will do it immediately. The men were trembling with fear. He knew that if he dared to say no or hesitate for a moment, he would be dead without any body parts. People under the eaves had to lower their heads. Knowing that he was breaking the rules, his men had no choice but to do it. With a hiss, the black shadow flashed away and disappeared into the room. The host continued to look up at the sky, without turning around from beginning to end. Only a whisper echoed in the stronghold, "This brat, he's really getting more and more into trouble. I don't know who he inherited this character from, it's nothing like his father. That bastard Xiaoruohe couldn't really be cuckolded, could he? But with that kid's strength, some old guys who think highly of themselves are probably going to suffer." "Hey hey!" A strange laugh echoed in the stronghold, with a bit of wretchedness. The moonlight shone down and shone on the face of the building owner. If Xiaowaji were here, he would definitely recognize this person as the person who fought with him in the woods that day. A mysterious old man. Everyone in the world who knows Xiaowaji's true strength is dead. There is only one exception, that is the mysterious old man here. Jinling City, Xiao Mansion. A man in black took advantage of the night to climb over the wall and enter. Slowly landing on the roof. He took a look at the layout of Xiao Mansion, chose a direction, and flew away. The man in black's Qinggong was pretty good. He could cover a distance of 3 to 4 feet in one leap without making any sound. None of the many innate guards of the Xiao Mansion noticed this person's arrival. But there were 2 exceptions. The moment the man in black entered the Xiao Mansion, Xiaowaji opened his eyes. In the darkness, Xiaowaji's eyes were bright, flashing cold light, and then disappeared without a trace. At the same time, Xiaowaji disappeared in the room. Gong Sun Ao's reaction was a step slower than Xiaowaji, but he also rushed out of the door immediately. Whoosh! Black. The man in black turned over and landed on the roof. He turned his palm and a dart appeared between his two fingers. There was a note tied to the dart. Just when the man in black was about to shoot the dart, he heard a cold voice from behind, "Stop coming, just leave it to me." The man in black was suddenly startled. The hair on his back stood up and his scalp was numb. He felt a cold air rushing from his heels to the back of his head. He subconsciously wanted to run away. But a palm pressed on his Tianling cap. It was like a mountain that pressed him hard to move. With the true energy surging in his palm, Xiao Wuji could blow the man in black's head to pieces with just a thought. You. The man in black was trembling, his teeth were chattering, and he couldn't say a word. At this moment, the man in black knew how terrifying Xiao Wuji's strength was, and it was simply not something he could face. Under Xiao Wuji's murderous aura, it was difficult for him to even maintain consciousness. At this moment, Gongsun Ao also arrived. Seeing that Xiao Wuji had captured the intruder, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Also, with Xiao Wuji's cultivation, how could he not be able to detect a mere thief? Who is this person? Want to interrogate? Or kill him directly? Gongsun Ao asked. Xiao Wuji shook his head slightly, hooked the fingers of his other hand, and the dart between the fingers of the man in black automatically fell into his hand. He took off the small note from the dart, opened it and looked through it. Just after a quick glance, Xiao Wuji's face darkened. The note recorded Li Dingjiang's hidden demands. The despicable and vicious methods made Xiao Wuji furious, and his murderous intent boiled over instantly. Cold murderous aura burst out from Xiao Wuji's body, and his feet the frost condensed and spread rapidly. The man in black was closest to Xiao Wuji and had the lowest cultivation level. He could not withstand the invasion of this cold air. In just a moment, his body was covered with frost. The cold air entered his body and he was frozen. Shivering, his breath was full of white mist. Seeing Xiao Wuji so furious, Gongsun Ao subconsciously took a few steps back, with a wary expression, staying away from the cold air. He had known Xiao Wuji for 2 or 3 months, and he had always remembered Xiao Wuji. He is a person who cannot express his emotions and anger, and hides his thoughts deeply. Even when the demon cult blood-bathed Jinling, Xiao Wuji did not react so much. This was the first time he saw Xiao Wuji so angry. And the angry Xiao Wuji was more angry than usual times or 1,000 times more terrifying. Li Dingjiang, Li Jingwei, unless I kill you and your son, I, Xiao Wuji, will never be a human being. Xiao Wuji roared in his heart, this time he must kill Li Wenbo and cut off his descendants. At the same time, the electronic sound of the system also sounded in Xiao Wuji's mind. Ding, the host triggers a mission, revenge must be taken. It is detected that Li Dingjiang and Li Jingwei have made a sinister plot to assassinate the host and the host's fiancé. Please ask the host to eliminate these 2 people without leaving any future troubles. Mission reward, the great shift of the universe at full level. At this moment, Xiao Wuji did not feel any joy due to the system rewards. He only had endless anger and murderous intent in his heart. What's wrong? What happened? Gongsun Ao saw Xiao Wuji's uncertain expression and asked. Xiao Wuji used his palms to shake the note into powder and said calmly, it's no big deal, I can solve it myself. Although Gongsun Ao knew that Xiao Wuji was hiding something from him, he didn't ask any more questions. If even Xiao Wuji couldn't solve it, then there was nothing he could do. What should I do with this person? Should I kill him directly? Gongsun Ao raised his spear and placed it on the neck of the man in black. The sharp tip of the spear could cut the man in black's neck with just one stroke. The man in black was so scared that his liver and gallbladder were broken, and he knelt down quickly begging for mercy. Xiaoqianhu, I have no ill intentions towards Xiaoqianhu, I just came to deliver a letter. Please forgive me, Xiaoqianhu. Xiao Wuji looked at the man in black and said, Answer my question, and I'll let you go. Xiaoqianhu, please ask, the villain must know everything and tell everything. Xiao Wuji asked, who sent you to report the news? The man in black said nervously, it's the original poster, the original poster sent me here. The host? Where is the host? The owner of Kishalu. Xiao Wuji was startled, his pupils shrank, and he continued to ask, what is your host's name? The villain really doesn't know. The man in black shook his head in panic and said, the original poster never shows his true face to others, and he never says his real name, so no one knows his true face and identity. Why should Kishalu help me? This is what Xiao Wuji really wants to know. Kishalu collects money to kill people, regardless of origin or identity, and the money and goods are paid. It is hard to imagine that Kishalu would take the initiative to reveal the information to him. Even ordinary people cannot, not to mention that there is still grudge between Xiao Wuji and Kishalu. In the past few months, Xiao Wuji has killed many killers from Kishalu. Logically speaking, the two sides should have a life or death relationship. But now the big enemy is taking the initiative to show kindness to him. What is this? The weasel is giving New Year greetings to the chicken? The man in black shook his head and said, the villain really doesn't know. The villain is just following the order of the original poster. Whatever the poster tells the villain to do, the villain will do it. I beg Mr. Xiao to show mercy. Xiao Wuji took a deep look at the man in black. He could tell that this man was not lying. Think about it, in the end, this man is just a messenger, and he cannot know too many secrets. You go. Xiao Wuji said. Thank you, Mr. Xiao. Reborn after the catastrophe, the man in black looked ecstatic. He immediately used Qinggong and fled away from Xiao Mansion. He swore that he would never come to Xiao Mansion again in this life. Just let him go like this. Gong Sun Ao looked at Xiao Wuji, a little confused. He knew Xiao Wuji's behavior and was always ruthless. How could he be left alive? Xiao Wuji said he is just here to deliver a message, not to kill anyone. I will kill him. What is he doing? Besides, I don't need to kill him, he is already a dead man. After saying that, Xiao Wuji turned around and left, disappearing on the roof. Gong Sun Ao was confused and couldn't figure out the situation at all. On the other side, after the man in black left the Xiao Mansion, he ran quickly and turned up the Qinggong to the maximum. I hated my parents for giving birth to two legs. But as Xiao Wuji said, the man in black who delivered the message was already dead. As soon as the man in black left Yang Fang, he felt a sharp pain in his chest and lower abdomen, and then he opened his mouth and spit out a big mouthful. Black blood. Then his vision went black, he fell from the roof and hit the alley heavily. In less than 3 breaths, the man in black died. Building, the original poster, hello, ruthless. On his deathbed, the man in black finally understood that the poster had no intention of letting him live from the beginning. What the poster did violated the rules of Kishalu, so of course the insider must be eliminated. After he sent the letter, it has lost its use value and is destined to be eliminated. After a night of silence, the next day came in a blink of an eye. Xiao Wuji took a rest and took Su Weiner to wander around Jinling City. Women all like to go shopping, and shopping is their innate ability. Talent. Xiao Wuji accompanied Su Weiner through the streets and alleys of Jinling City, looking calm and composed, as if nothing happened last night. For the next 3 days, Xiao Wuji accompanied Su Weiner on sightseeing tours, as if he had forgotten what happened that night. The matter was forgotten. Finally, on the night of the 5th day, Xiao Wuji took action. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 182. Under the night, a black shadow left the Xiao Mansion quietly, and even Gong Sun Ao did not notice that Xiao Wuji had left. Arriving at Li's mansion with familiar faces, Xiao Wuji climbed over the wall and lurked into Li's mansion under the cover of night. Xiao Wuji has already been to Li's mansion once, and there was a big fuss last time, so he already knows the layout of Li's mansion very well. In the eyes of outsiders, the Li mansion was like a dragon's pond and a tiger's den, but in Xiao Wuji's eyes, it was just like his backyard. He comes when he wants and leaves when he wants. The last time he came to Li mansion, Xiao Wuji only killed Li Dingshan. But this time, Xiao Wuji had more to do. Xiao Wuji walked through the night, avoiding the patrolling soldiers in the mansion and the secret sentries in the darkness, and arrived at the core back house of Li's mansion unimpeded. Xiao Wuji's breathing technique has been cultivated to the highest level, and the same is true for his hiding technique. Not to mention the soldiers and secret sentries in the mansion, not even the powerful Grand Master could detect his arrival. Xiao Wuji turned over and landed on the roof of an attic as lightly as dust, hiding in the darkness. This pavilion is called Yuya Pavilion, and it is the residence of Li Jingwei. Xiao Wuji concentrated his mind and calmed down, mobilized the true energy in his body, listened to the voices, identified the position, and listened for the sounds and breaths in the pavilion. I only heard a voice coming. How about it? Did you ask when father took action against Xiao Wuji? This person's voice was very familiar, and it was Li Jingwei. Another person's voice was hoarse and said the master has sent people to Kishalu to issue a bounty, one bright and one dark. With the efficiency of the Kishalu killer, I think it won't take long for them to take action. Even if you can't kill Xiao Wuji, you can still make him suffer. The most important thing is that the hidden flower is targeting Xiao Wuji's fiancée. That woman is just a weak woman with no power to bind a chicken. She will definitely not be able to escape the plot of the Kishalu killer. As long as you wait patiently, the good news will come soon. Li Jingwei said that bastard Xiao Wuji dared to hurt me in public and made me lose face. I must kill him this time. It's a pity that he can't be captured alive, otherwise I will punish him personally and let him know what life is worse than death. The voice of these words was slightly louder, and then there was the sound of gnashing teeth. Li Jingwei must have been extremely resentful in his heart. The hoarse voice said, "Master, don't be anxious, Kishalu is here. It is the best killer organization in the world. Even the powerful Grand Masters have killed many people, not to mention that Xiao Wuji is only a half-step Grand Master. With Xiao Wuji's strength, he would never be able to escape the pursuit of Kishalu. Even if you fail this time, there will be a next time. If you fail next time, there will be a next time. Xiao Wuji is in the light and the young master is in the dark. There will always be a time when he can be killed. Besides, it's not a bad idea to kill Xiao Wuji's fiancée first. The young master just thinks of it as collecting interest. Young master, you see, this is the love thread, the most evil poison in the world." The guard took out a small jade bottle and said with an evil smile, "Even the powerful Grand Master cannot resist the toxicity of the love silk coil. If Su Weiner is caught by the love silk coil, she will be unable to control herself and do something that will embarrass Xiao Wuji. Things come up." Li Jingwei took the love silk and looked at it, and said with a sneer, "I heard that Su Weiner is a rare and stunning beauty. To be honest, I also want to try her, but it's a pity that it's cheaper than those lowly people in Kishalu." The killer. After learning about Li Dingjiang's hidden request, Li Jingwei didn't know how happy he was. He had to admire his father Li Dingjiang's methods, which were indeed much crueler than him. Sometimes when you want to take revenge, killing is not the most cruel method. Killing people is the only way to kill people. If this plan succeeds, Xiao Wuji will be more miserable than death, and he will lose his face and become the laughing stock of the world. Let's see how arrogant you are then. As soon as he thought of Xiao Wuji's future fate, Li Jingwei couldn't help but burst into laughter. In the attic, Li Jingwei and his men talked enthusiastically, talked endlessly, happily, and occasionally danced, as if they had seen Xiao Wuji. Wuji's tragic end. Little did he know that their conversation had been heard by Xiao Wuji word for word. The cold light in Xiao Wuji's eyes was murderous, and his heart was extremely angry. If the target was pointed at him, Xiao Wuji would not be able to bear it at all. They won't get angry. But dragons have reverse scales, and they will die if they touch them. Su Weiner is Xiao Wuji's reverse scale. From the moment Li Dingjiang and Li Jingui and his son decided to attack Su Weiner, they were destined to die. What's more, they came up with such a despicable idea. The dirty, and sinister plot really made Xiao Wuji intolerable. Li Dingjiang, Li Jingui, if I don't let your Li family be ruined and be infamy for thousands of years, I, Xiao Wuji, will be too sorry for myself. Xiao Wuji looked cold and muttered to himself. He swayed and disappeared on the roof of the attic. In the attic, Li Jingui was still talking to his men. But suddenly, the attic window was blown open by the wind. A black shadow broke through the window. Enter and instantly arrive in front of Li Jingui. Young master, be careful. The guard was shocked and immediately stopped in front of Li Jingui after he realized it. At the same time, he wanted to shout a warning. But before he could speak, Xiao Wuji pointed at the fatal point on his heart, causing him to vomit blood. He fell to the ground and died. Xiao Wuji also clicked on Li Jinggui's mute acupointment at the same time, blocking the meridians and acupuncture points throughout his body, making him unable to move. Li Jingui was frozen in place, unable to move his hands and feet, unable to speak, and could only stare wide-eyed in horror. He looked at the sudden appearance of the masked man in black. Li Jingui wanted to ask how this man appeared. Could it be that all the master guards in the Li mansion were blind and deaf and they could actually let assassins sneak into his room? Xiao Wuji glanced at Li Jingui coldly, and grabbed him directly without knocking him unconscious. Li Jingui was scared to death. He knew that if he was captured by this person, he would die an ugly death. But at this moment, he could not make a sound. He could neither beg for mercy nor threaten. To Li Jinggui's expectation, Xiao Wuji not only did not leave Li's house, but instead lurked into Li mansion. Xiao Wuji closed his eyes and sensed the sound of breathing, and soon discovered where Li Jingui was. With his half-step cultivation to the realm of heaven and man, he could tell the difference between men and women just by breathing. In this house of female relatives, even the guards are female, and only Li Dingjiang is a man. In the room, Li Dingjiang was sleeping soundly with his concubine in his arms. Xiao Wuji quietly entered the room, pointed at Li Dingjiang's dumb point. Li Dingjiang's acupuncture points were also blocked. Li Dingjiang was awakened, and when he opened his eyes, he just met Xiao Wuji's cold eyes. He was frightened and frightened. He wanted to sound a warning and wanted to get up and escape. But he couldn't move. Can watch Xiao Wuji take him away. At the same time, Li Dingjiang also saw Li Jingui, who was also arrested. The father and son looked at each other, and they both saw the panic and despair in each other's eyes. The most terrifying thing in the world, it means knowing that the enemy wants to kill you, but you can't resist or escape. The fear of waiting for death to come is more devastating than killing them directly. Xiao Wuji grabbed Li Dingjiang and Li Jingui and his son and left the room. The woman on the bed. Xiao Wuji tapped his sleeping hole, and he was determined not to wake up until noon tomorrow. In a flash, Xiao Wuji turned into a black shadow and disappeared into the room. Along the way in, Xiao Wuji carried two big the living people left Li mansion silently. In this way, Xiao Wuji captured Li Dingjiang and Li Jingui and his son under the eyes of countless masters and 800 soldiers. After leaving Li mansion, Xiao Wuji returned to Li mansion several times. This time, Xiao Wuji repeated his old trick and captured a dozen of the dead men who were hiding in the Li mansion. One who a building, in an elegant room with a Tianzi name. In the room, Li Dingjiang, Li Jingui and more than a dozen the dead soldiers were lying on the ground. All of them had their acupuncture points tapped. Although they were still conscious, they could not speak or move their hands, just like puppets. Xiao Wuji opened Li Dingjiang's mute acupuncture point with a finger from the air. Although Li Dingjiang couldn't move, he was finally able to make a sound and immediately shouted loudly, "Someone, someone come and save me. I am Li Dingjiang, the left minister of the Ministry of Household Affairs. If anyone can rescue me, I will be rewarded heavily." Xiao Wuji sat on the chair, watching quietly as Li Dingjiang shouted loudly, but did not stop him and let him shout. Li Dingjiang shouted for a long time, and his voice became hoarse, but no one responded to him. Xiao Wuji faced looking at him expressionlessly, he said calmly, "Stop howling, it's useless. This room has been shrouded in my true energy. Even if you shout at your throat, the sound will not reach outside." Li Dingjiang looked at Xiao Wuji in horror and said tremblingly, "Who are you? What do you want to do? Do you know my identity? I am the Zhou of the official department of the Great Zhou dynasty, an important minister of the imperial court, the son of the chief minister of the dynasty, and the head of the Li family. If you dare to hurt me at all, the Li family will fight you till death. Not just you, your family, friends, teachers and students, anyone who has anything to do with you, Zhao Lihao, will die without a burial place. I would like to advise you, just let me go. I can be accommodating and let bygones be bygones." Li Dingjiang looked at Xiao Wuji with a look of anger and yelled. Now the identity of the Li family is his last life-saving straw. He only hopes that the people in front of him will be afraid of the reputation of the Li family and retreat. But Li Dingjiang forgot well, if Xiao Wuji was afraid of the Li family, he would not have sneaked into the Li mansion to catch them. Xiao Wuji looked at Li Dingjiang expressionlessly, without saying a word. Those cold eyes made Li Dingjiang's scalp numb. I felt chills in my heart. Li Jingwei next to me was even more unbearable. She was trembling with fear and her teeth were chattering. "Who are you? What's the purpose?" Li Dingjiang was frightened and asked again. Xiao Wuji said, "I heard that the Li family wanted to take revenge on Xiao Wuji, and there were 2 bright and dark bonuses downstairs in Kisha. I wonder if this is the case." Li Dingjiang's pupils suddenly tightened and he lost his voice. "You are here because of Xiao Wuji's affairs. What is your relationship with him?" Xiao Wuji said calmly, "What does this have to do with Xiao Wuji? There is no need to elaborate on it with you, a despicable and shameless old dog. I really didn't expect that the dignified Minister Zhou of the Household Department, an important minister of the imperial court, would actually think of using such despicable means as love strings to deal with a weak woman who has no power to bind a chicken. To say you are despicable is an understatement. A shameless and despicable old dog like you is really rare in ancient times and modern times. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 183. To say you are despicable is an understatement. A shameless and despicable old dog like you is really rare in ancient times and modern times. While speaking, Xiao Wuji turned his palm, and a small jade bottle appeared in his hand. This jade bottle was obviously the love silk coil that Xiao Wuji snatched from Li Jingwei's hand. Seeing Xiao Wuji's actions, Li Dingjiang became even more frightened, and said in a trembling voice, "You, what do you want to do?" Xiao Wuji said, "Since you, an old dog, have come up with such a good idea, I will naturally let you enjoy it. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste of all your good intentions, like an old dog? It just so happens that this love affair was provided by your son, and the actors are all here, so you can have a great time putting on a show. Let the world see how dirty the Li family, which holds all the power in the world, really is. I believe that after today, the reputation of the Li family will be passed down through the ages and will last forever. I am trying to treat others the same way I treat them. Isn't it very reasonable? Xiao Wuji smiled coldly. Looking at that cold smile, Li Dingjiang was extremely frightened, and his body and mind were chilled. He looked at the love thread in Xiao Wuji's hand, and then looked at himself, his son Li Jingwei, and the dozen Li Dingjiang around him. The dead man in the mansion instantly understood Xiao Wuji's plan. It was precisely because of his understanding that Li Dingjiang was extremely frightened. If it really came to that step, the Li family would definitely become the laughing stock of the world, and their reputation would be ruined and they would be infamy for thousands of years. No, don't come here. Please be merciful and don't be impulsive. We can discuss things easily. If you have any requests, please feel free to put them forward. I, Li Dingjiang, will definitely satisfy them. Power, wealth, beauties, magical secrets, heavenly materials and earthly treasures, magical weapons, as long as you name them, I will answer them all. Li Dingjiang begged for mercy in a panic, with tears and snot running down his face. Li Dingjiang has never been so desperate since he was born. Li Jingwei behind him was even more unbearable. He was so scared that he wet his pants, tears rolled down, and his face was covered with snot. He wanted to more than 360 is so disgusting. Xiao Wuji looked at the two of them and sneered. The Li family has great power over the world and is destined to be remembered in history. Today, I am just the icing on the cake for the Li family. Why should Mr. Li refuse? Come on, drink this bottle of love, and the show will begin soon. After saying that, Xiao Wuji flicked his finger, jade. The love threads in the wine suddenly split into more than a dozen strands, and shot into the mouths of Li Dingjiang, Li Jingwei, and a dozen dead men respectively like sharp arrows. The love threads were worthy of being wrapped around the wine. It is the most evil poison in the world. As soon as several people drank it, their whole bodies began to heat up and their body temperature rose rapidly. Several people felt that there was a fire burning in their bodies. The flame rose from the lower abdomen and rushed to the limbs and meridians of the body. He had to break out of his body. In an instant, their faces were as red as a monkey's buttocks, and steam was rising from their heads. Li Jingwei had the weakest willpower, so he couldn't hold on at all. His eyes were so red that he looked at them. He looked at the people around him like a wild beast staring at his prey. After him came Li Dingjiang and a dozen dead soldiers. Li Dingjiang looked at Xiao Wuji with ferocious eyes, and shouted in a hoarse voice, "No matter who you are, the Li family will not let you go. You are dead. Dead." Li Dingjiang already knew his fate, so before he died, he issued the most vicious threats and curses to Xiao Wuji. But Xiao Wuji turned a deaf ear and just waited patiently for all of them to completely lose their minds. The toxicity of love, even the great master, it was difficult for the strong to compete, let alone these people. Sure enough, in just a few breaths, these people completely lost their minds, and there was nothing but ferociousness in their eyes. Their noses began to bleed one by one, which was caused by excessive yang energy. Whether the Li family will be famous forever or remain infamy forever, cabby, depends on you. Xiao Wuji saw that the time had come, and released everyone's acupuncture points with a wave of his hand. At the same time, his figure flashed and flew out of the window. The window closed automatically, and Li Dingjiang, Li Jingwei, and a dozen dead soldiers in the room all roared with a sound. They rushed towards each other. At this moment, they had no human cognition and consciousness, only the survival instinct of living things. Time passed. Although it was past the third watch, the Wanhua Tower was still lit. It was bright. Many court officials, powerful businessmen, and children of aristocratic families were still having fun in the 10,000 Flowers Tower. But suddenly, everyone was attracted by a melancholy sound. The sound was very strange, like a beast roaring, and there were sounds of tables, chairs, and benches being knocked over, and crashes. In short, it was an indescribable sound. At first, Everyone thought someone was fighting, but after hearing clearly, everyone showed the same expression invariably. All eyes in the lobby were focused on a certain private room in Tianzihao. Guests in several private rooms next door also rushed out of the room. They were impatient with the noise. Damn it, who is this? The movement is so loud, even more powerful than me. Today I met the great God. How much medicine did you take to be so strong? I admire you Lu Qilang. You must ask this great God for advice afterwards. Everyone was talking about it, and suddenly there was a loud bang, and the door of the private room was actually broken. Everyone was shocked, and they all showed expressions of shock. Damn it, this is too violent. Even the door was blown open, no one would be killed, right? Several guests in the corridor hurriedly went up to check the situation, for fear of causing death. But when they saw it, their eyes suddenly widened, and their eyeballs almost flew out of their sockets. Look! After arriving at the scene inside the private room, all that was left in everyone's mind was the word F***ck. Their current expressions were astonishing and shocking. People who can book a private room in Wanhua Tower, all of them are rich or noble, and there are few people they admire in their lives. But today, they are all convinced. Ah! Shameless! There was a scream of shame and anger. Several courtesans who were hugged by the guests immediately covered their eyes with their small hands, covered their faces and ran away at high speed. What's wrong? What happened? When the guests in the lobby below saw this, they became curious and ran upstairs to watch the show. But when they saw it, they were shocked. It was so eye-catching. Ah, isn't this Mr. Li? There was an official of the central government present, and he recognized at a glance that the old man with eyes as red as blood, blood pouring from his mouth and nose, and a low roar like a mad beast was Li Dingzhang, the left minister of the Ministry of Household Affairs of the central government. He shouted, everyone recognized it. Many people lowered their heads and spat, showing contempt. Humph, the dignified Zhou Shilang of the household department, an important minister in the court, actually it's really disgraceful to do such a thing. Ah, Li Jingui is here too. How could he have such a good time? I really didn't see it. At this time, a young man from an aristocratic family recognized Li Jingui and shouted immediately. Several young men around him looked up, and sure enough they saw that one of them was Li Jingui. There was no intact skin on his body, and his hair was disheveled. Dripping with blood, it can be said to be extremely miserable. Li Jingui is like this. It's amazing that father and son came together. This, I can't accept it. Awesome, so awesome. The young masters shook their heads, feeling overwhelmed and convinced. In the past, Li Jingui relied on his family background to boss them around and show off his power. They were a little unconvinced. But at this moment, they were all convinced. Everyone was very interested. Looking at them, they were talking among themselves. There were several old Confucian scholars in the crowd who were so angry that they blew their beards and stared, trembling all over. They lamented that the world was declining and people's hearts were not the same as before. The dignified Li family could be so dirty and shameless. Dirty people are really immoral and unsightly. Only a few officials from the King Liu faction showed ecstasy on their faces. During this time, the officials from the Li faction became very powerful in the court, overwhelming them. King Liu. The officials were breathless. They were worried that they could not find a reason to attack the Li clan. Unexpectedly, Li Dingzhang and Li Jingui and his son would hand over the clues to them today. If they did not take this opportunity to severely attack the Li clan, awesome, isn't it sorry for the wonderful performance of Li Dingzhang and his son? Several King Liu officials looked at each other and understood what the other party was thinking. In just a short moment, they had already thought about thousands or even tens of thousands of words of impeachment in their minds. Article. This time, the Li family must be disgraced and hurt. Only some martial arts warriors present could see that Li Dingjiang, Li Jingwei, and others had been plotted. They must have taken some medicine or been hit by something. Only when he was poisoned would he lose his mind and do such an ugly thing. But no matter what the reason, Li Dingjiang and Li Jingwei, father and son, are dead. After this incident, they will definitely become the laughing stock of the world. The Li family will also be people all over the world laughed at him, his reputation was ruined, and 100 years of glory was lost in one day. Who on earth had such a deep hatred for the Li family? Who actually used such cruel methods to deal with Li Dingjiang and his son? He wanted to make the Li family infamy for thousands of years and never be able to stand up again. This is the never-ending rhythm of the Li family. When everyone thought about it, they couldn't help but shuddered and broke out in a cold sweat. The Li family has great power in the world and dominates the world. Few warriors in the world dare to offend them. He is from the Li family. And this person is so bold, I really don't know where he comes from. Mr. Li, wake up. Some officials from the Li faction wanted to go up to rescue people, but as soon as they stepped into the door, they were caught by Li Dingjiang. Li Dingjiang had already disowned his relatives, and whoever went up would die. Don't go in, they've been poisoned, and now they don't recognize their relatives, so no one can get close. The warrior guard next to an official stopped several officials and said solemnly. Several people looked at it anxiously, jumping up and down, not knowing what to do. They are all officials of the Li faction, and they follow Li's example in everything. The Li family is closely related to the Li family. If something happens to the Li family, they will also be implicated. Some time ago, Li Wenbo went to Qingzhou to provide disaster relief, and Li Dingshan died again. For the Li family, it is a major blow. Fortunately, Li Dingjiang stepped forward and temporarily stabilized the situation. During this period, he gained the upper hand again, which shook the prestige of the Li faction. I thought this advantage could last forever, but I didn't expect it to happen now. Something like this happened. It was too late for them to block the news at this time. There were too many witnesses to block the news. They could already imagine how badly the reputation of the Li family would be hit after this matter spread. Their interests will also be seriously damaged. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 184. When they thought of this, several officials felt splitting headaches and their eyes turned black. 2 officials even felt weak at their feet, fell down with a thud, and immediately lost consciousness. Master Zhang, Master Zhao, how are you doing? Many officials were so anxious that they jumped to their feet and were at a loss. Ah! At this moment, a roar sounded. Everyone looked up and saw Li Dingjiang shouting to the sky, with blood spurting out from his mouth. Not only that, the veins on Li Dingjiang's neck were also injured. Exploded, blood shot out wildly. As the blood flowed out, Li Dingjiang's life force was completely exhausted. With a pop, Li Dingjiang fell to the ground, completely losing his breath. Li Dingjiang died, but his eyes did not. He closed his eyes, and there was endless resentment deep in his eyes. After Li Dingjiang died, Li Jingwei also bled from all his orifices and died. After that, there were more than a dozen dead soldiers of the Li family. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen people were all dead. No one was left. Everyone was shocked by this tragic scene, and no one spoke for a long time. The whole place was dead silent, and you could hear a needle drop. This is fatal. Ah! After a long time, someone screamed in terror. The timid wealthy businessmen and young masters all fled. Seeing this, many warriors in the world took a deep breath, secretly sighing at the powerful poison. What they did was so cruel, it's really chilling. Things are going to change in Jinling City, I'd better leave as soon as possible. Horrible, terrible. Many warriors in the martial arts world were afraid and turned away. No one noticed that in the corner of Wanhua Tower, there was a person watching with cold eyes. When he saw the miserable death of Li Dingzhong and Li Jingui and his son, a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. This person is clearly Xiao Wuji after his disguise. At this moment, Xiao Wuji looks ordinary, as if he is the kind of person who cannot be found in the crowd. No one will notice him. How dare Li Dingzhong and Li Jingui be so vicious? With his thoughts in mind, Xiao Wuji naturally wanted to witness their deaths with his own eyes. After seeing the tragic death of the father and son, Xiao Wuji finally vented the anger in his heart and felt much more relaxed. At the same time, the electronic sound of the system also sounded. Get up. Ding, it was detected that the host killed Li Dingzhong and Li Jingui and his son, and completed the task of revenge. Do you want to receive the reward? Receive. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the full level of the Great Shift of the Universe. The rewards are being distributed and have been completed. The Great Shift of the Universe comes from the Yishan world and is a magical skill of the Mingjiao sect. This is a very clever magical skill that uses strength and strength. The fundamental principle is to unleash the potential that each person has. The power hidden in each person's body, it is originally very huge, but it cannot be used at ordinary times, but in an emergency, a weak person who usually has no strength to tie a chicken can often carry 1,000 pounds. This is the so-called unlimited potential. The Great Shift of the Universe can fully develop the potential of the human body. This skill is divided into 7 levels. Those with high understanding can practice it. The first level takes 7 years, and the second level doubles, which becomes more and more difficult. After the old man Huo Shan created the Great Shift of the Universe, he only practiced to the 6th level. He only created half of the 7th level, and the following mental formulas were deduced, and there were errors and omissions in them. However, Xiao Wuji directly cultivated to the 7th level of Dzogchen under the system's initiation. The Great Shift of the Universe has 9 main functions, including inspiring maximize potential, gather the principles of martial arts, copy the opponent's martial arts, create weaknesses in the opponent, and save money. Good martial arts. Killing Li Dingzhong and his son, and obtaining this peerless magical skill, made Xiao Wuji feel very good. Taking one last look at the bodies of Li Dingzhong and his son, Xiao Wuji had a sneer on his lips. Wait a minute, this is just the beginning. Li Wenbo, I have been looking forward to the day when you return to Beijing. Before long, I will send you down to stay with your 2 sons. Immediately, Xiao Wuji turned around and left, disappearing into the crowd. Get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of my way. After a while, a team of 6-door policemen hurried over, led by a gold-robed head catcher. When they saw that the dead people were Li Dingzhong and Li Jingui, all the arresters, including the gold-robed head catcher, the faces of the 6-door police officers all changed, and cold sweat broke out on their backs and foreheads. The horrific death of these dozen people also frightened them. They dared to kill people in Jinling City, and they killed important officials of the imperial court, and in full view of everyone. The murderer was killed under the circumstances. The arrogance and cruelty of the murderer can be imagined. There is no need to investigate, the golden-robed arrester knows that this is a major case, and it is a major case that can alarm the government, the opposition, and the world. This is trouble. The golden-robed catcher frowned and was about to cry. If he had known better, he wouldn't have grabbed this mission. Wouldn't it be nice to let others take the blame? Why do you have to grab this mission? I'll take the credit now. If you don't, you will get into trouble. If you think about it, you will know that the person who dares to kill Li Dingzhong and Li Jingui is definitely not an ordinary person. And if he dares to kill people in full view of Wanhua Tower, he will definitely not leave any clues. No matter from what point of view, no matter how you look at it, this case is not something that a little golden-robed catcher like him can investigate. Come, survey the scene, and collect the bodies. Although he guessed that there would be no clues left at the scene, the investigation still needs to be carried out. The golden-robed catcher now just wants to go back to the six-door headquarters immediately and report the case to the master. This case is no longer a small matter for him. The arrestor in Jinyi could make the final decision. Wanhua building was quickly completely sealed off. In addition to the 6 doors, people from Jinyue and Dongchang also arrived. Those who had no time to leave the scene were left for questioning, but it was not until dawn that they were found. No useful clues were found. Everyone had only one sentence, that is, I don't know. In just one night, the Wanhualo massacre had already spread throughout the world. The streets and alleys of Jinling City. From the emperor and court officials to the common people, even the most humble people have heard about it more or less. And as time goes by, the rumors become more and more intense, and the more they spread, the more evil they become. Jinling City Mirror in the Lake Restaurant. Hey, have you heard about the Wanhualo massacre? I've heard about it, why haven't I heard about it? Now the streets and alleys are spreading rumors about the Wanhua Tower massacre. I heard that the person who died was a high-ranking official, a very big one. It seems that he is still the chief minister of the dynasty. No, it's not the chief minister, it's the chief minister's son and grandson. I heard it was a tragic death. Father and son died together. The body was not even wearing clothes when it was brought out. The father and son went to a brothel together and died together. These dog officials really know how to play. They died well. I heard that the father and son liked men, and because of poor health, they took medicine. The medicine was too strong and he died. Ah! Really, where did you hear that? My uncle's brother's cousin's uncle's son's third-room concubine's younger brother happened to be in Wanhua building that day and saw it with his own eyes. Later, he was arrested by the 6-door police for questioning. The police officer at Liamen said that the official and his son went crazy and died because they took too much tiger and wolf medicine and their bodies couldn't bear it. Alas, a dignified and important official of the imperial court could do such a nasty thing. It's really disgusting. Who says it's not? I have long heard that these dignitaries are the most hypocritical. They do one thing on the surface but another behind the scenes. Now it seems that this is indeed the case. From ancient times to the present, this method of death has been widely spread throughout the world. I'm afraid this is the only one, right? Hey, the Li family's face has been completely disgraced now. They will be infamy for thousands of years. Should. Who allowed Thief Li to do so many evil things? This is all retribution. Shhhh, keep your voice down, don't say this nonsense, you'll be in trouble if someone hears it. Oh, you're right, I didn't say anything just now, you didn't hear anything. A few people looked at each other and sneered a few more times. Li Wenbo did many evil things and harmed loyal people. The people of the world have long hated the Li family. Now that they see such a big ugliness in the Li family, they naturally gloat and even clap their hands. Congratulations! Imperial Palace, Deluo Hall. Because of Li Dingzhong and Li Jingwei, officials from the Li family and officials from the King Liu party have been quarreling. Your Majesty, Li Dingzhong and Li Jingwei have done such dirty and despicable things, which is really a shame to our Zhou court. Now the people all over the world are laughing at me. There is a dirty and important official in the Zhou dynasty court, and the court has lost face. The minister begged your Majesty to severely punish Li, otherwise the court would lose face. Where is the majesty of His Majesty? A King Liu censor wrote with a sonorous tone, and every word was like thunder, exploding in the Deluo Hall. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of King Liu officials bowed down and said in unison, I implore your Majesty to severely punish the Li family. I am reporting this to your Majesty, but I think it is inappropriate. An official from Li's party came out and said loudly Master Li and his son were obviously poisoned and framed. They could not help themselves to do such things. Now that Mr. Li's body is still cold, what we should do is to find the murderer with all our strength and bring him to justice, so as to comfort Mr. Li's spirit in heaven. The murderer was so audacious that he dared to kill important officials of the imperial court with such cruel methods. He did not take the laws of the Zhou dynasty into consideration at all. Wei Chen believes that not killing this beast will not make the people angry, and not killing it will not strengthen the monarch's power. A King Liu official retorted, it is not yet known whether Li Dingzhong has been framed. How do you know they didn't take their own medicine to have fun and die? Huh, I know Master Li's behavior best. He regards the face of his family and the court more than his life. How could he do such a shameful thing? Isn't this being framed? Li's party officials glared at. He, you know the person but not the heart, who knows who Li Dingzhong is in private? A King Liu official laughed sarcastically and said, I heard that not long after Li Dingshan and Mr. Li died, Li Dingzhong robbed Mr. Li's wives and concubines. This person is the most hypocritical. It is not surprising that he would do such a dirty and indecent thing. Don't talk nonsense here. An official from Li's party yelled, how can you say such rumors in court without any evidence? You are deceiving me. The officials of the Li party began to blame them, trying to change the topic. King Liu official laughed strangely and said, found rumors may not be rumors. If they are not true, how can such rumors spread? You fart. You are deceiving me. Your Majesty, please punish this person severely. You're the one farting, everything I said is true. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 185. You fart. You are deceiving me. Your Majesty, please punish this person severely. You're the one farting, everything I said is true. Dog officer, how dare you talk nonsense here? Why don't you exit the Deluo Hall quickly to avoid embarrassing yourself here? You are a dog officer, talking nonsense, calling a deer a horse, and I am ashamed to be in the company of you. While talking, people from the two factions started to quarrel, and people from the two factions started to fight. The Li party and the King Liu party have never dealt with each other, and the relationship between the two parties has already become a fire and water. All it takes is a spark. It will completely detonate them. Suddenly, the Deluo Hall was noisy, as if it had turned into a vegetable market. That's enough, stop arguing. Emperor Jingtai slapped the table and let out an angry roar, like the roar of a tiger and the roar of a dragon, which instantly silenced the two factions. Emperor Jingtai glanced at the ministers and said with an unhappy expression, you are all important ministers of the court. Have you ever learned court etiquette? They actually had a big fight in this Deluo palace. What would it look like? Do you think my Deludian is a vegetable market? I am guilty, Your Majesty, please calm down. Officials from both factions were shocked by Emperor Jingtai. They lowered their heads and bowed to apologize. Okay, I already know this. Emperor Jingtai covered his forehead and ordered in a cold voice, Li Dingzhong and his son are dirty and despicable. They have ruined the face of the imperial court and committed a heinous crime. According to my decree, these two people were expelled from the 563 clan of the Li clan and transported to a mass grave outside the city for burial. They were not allowed to use incense and sacrifice. In addition, the death of these two people is very strange. I suspect that there is a traitor behind the scenes. I ordered Jin Yiwei, Lai Amenmen, and Dongchang 3rd Division to jointly investigate the case. Within 7 days, the real culprit must be arrested and brought to justice. His Majesty. The King Liu official looked unwilling and wanted to say something, but Emperor Jingtai waved his hand and said, okay, the decree has been issued. I'm tired. Please step aside. Your Majesty is wise. The officials of the Li party kowtowed one after another. While kowtowing, the officials of the Li party also smiled mockingly at the officials of the King Liu party, implying provocation, which made the officials of the King Liu party tremble with anger. Emperor Jingtai expelled Li Dingzhong and his son. They were expelled from the Li clan and buried randomly in mass graves. On the surface, they were indeed punished severely. After all, being kicked out of the clan and not receiving incense was the greatest punishment for a dead person. But in fact, it was not so. The real purpose of Emperor Jingtai was to extricate the Li family from this matter. If Li Dingzhong and his son were expelled from the Li family, then the reputation of the Li family would not be dragged down by Li Dingzhong and his son. This was an overt and covert killing. Paul. King Liu officials were unwilling to accept this because they saw this. With such a rare opportunity, they originally thought that they could use this matter to severely damage the prestige of the Li party and even expel them from the court. But they did not expect that Emperor Jingtai wanted to protect them. This made them sigh in their hearts. No matter how tough they could not be tougher than the emperor. The ministers retreated, and Emperor Jingtai covered his forehead and sighed deeply. The thoughts of King Liu officials, Emperor Jingtai was naturally it's clear. To say that such a scandal has been done, the reputation of the Li family has been completely ruined. As an emperor, all Li family officials should be expelled from the court to restore the people's view of the court. But Li Wenbo is a pawn. Emperor Jingtai didn't want to give up yet, so he had no choice but to abandon his car to save the commander-in-chief. Giving up 2 dead men to save the entire Li family, I believe Li Wenbo will be more loyal to him after knowing about it. Someone comes. Emperor Jingtai gave the order, and a young eunuch next to him immediately stepped forward. Emperor Jingtai said word by word, pass on my decree to summon Li Wenbo back to the capital immediately, without any delay. Yes, the slave obeys the order. Qingzhou, the governor's mansion. Li Wenbo was sitting on a tea banquet, closing his eyes and concentrating. In front of him, there was a golden Nanmu tea table, and a small stove on the table. On the stove was an exquisite purple clay pot. The charcoal fire at the bottom of the pot was burning, and the water in the pot was boiling. Only a few crystal clear tea leaves were seen tumbling in the boiling water, and a faint fragrance of tea wafted out from the pot, filling the room with a long aftertaste. This is the white jade orchid, a tribute from the imperial court. When boiled with water, it becomes crystal clear, like white jade, and has a long and lingering fragrance, just like an orchid, hence its name. Li Wenbo is a master of tea ceremony. When the tea is boiling, he picks up the purple clay pot. But he did not pour it directly into the tea bowl, but poured out the first tea. Because compared to the first tea, the second tea tasted better. But white jade orchid is the best tea, let alone ordinary people. I have never seen it before. If a tea lover is lucky enough to taste it once, he will definitely cherish it in every possible way. Even if the first tea is slightly flawed, it is far superior to ordinary famous teas in the world. Only Li Wenbo can be so generous, directly pour out the first cup and drink the second cup of tea. Li Wenbo added water to make tea. The aroma of the tea was overwhelming, far better than the first cup. Then he poured 2 cups of tea, picked up 1 cup and tasted it, squinted his eyes, and showed a smile at the corner of his mouth. Good tea, you should try it too. Li Wenbo put down the teacup and said to the guard Ding Xiaotian in front of him. Ding Xiaotian picked up the teacup, raised his head and swallowed it in one gulp, not caring that the tea had just been boiled. The tea that was hot enough to burn his skin was no different to cold water for him. Difference. After drinking the tea, Ding Xiaotian curled his lips and said, this tea is nothing good to drink. It's bitter and bitter. It's far worse than wine. I really don't know why you like it so much. Li Wenbo shook his head with a smile and said, it's really a cow chewing peonies. As for the cup of tea you just drank, you can't drink it without 1,000 taels of silver. What wine can be as good as the tea I brewed myself? The tribute white jade orchid, plus the one brewed by Li Wenbo himself, the price of a cup is definitely no less than 1,000 taels of silver. Ding Xiaotian said disdainfully, I still prefer drinking. Tea is only liked by women or white-faced scholars. Of. A manly man will naturally drink the strongest wine. What's the point of drinking tea? Li Wenbo shook his head and said nothing. He was a civil servant, and he obviously had no common language with a warrior like Ding Xiaotian. At this time, a flying eagle suddenly flew out of the window. This flying eagle was very spiritual and flew directly into the room and landed on it. Li Wenbo's tea table. Li Wenbo frowned when he saw the flying eagle passing the letter. Generally speaking, if the Li family wanted to tell him something, they would only use the flying pigeon to pass the letter. Using a flying eagle to pass a letter means that something extremely important has happened. Li Wenbo held the tea bowl in one hand and took off the letter from the flying eagle's feet with the other hand to open it and read it. The next second, Li Wenbo's pupils shrank and his eyes widened. The tea bowl in his hand also fell to the ground. The hot tea spilled on Li Wenbo's thigh, but Li Wenbo didn't notice it at all. He stared at the letter in his hand, his hands trembled, and his eyes turned red instantly. Ah! Li Wenbo let out a roar, stood up straight, and roared loudly. Damn it! Damn it! What kind of beast is this against my Li family? I can't spare him, I can't spare him. The frantic Li Wenbo overturned the tea table in front of him, and the precious purple clay pot immediately shattered to the ground. Fortunately, Ding Xiaotian hid quickly, otherwise he would have been hit by the tea. After overturning the tea table, Li Wenbo did not stop going crazy, continued to smash things in the room. Vase, desk, flower pot, everything that can be smashed. What happened? Why did you suddenly go crazy? Ding Xiaotian was confused. He picked up the letter on the ground and opened it. His pupils instantly shrank into a small black dot. The letter was sent from Jinling, detailing the death of Li Dingjiang and Li Jingwei, their method of death, and the treatment of Li Dingjiang. The impact on the family. Even Ding Xiaotian, a powerful master who killed many people, felt cold both physically and mentally after reading the letter, and cold sweat broke out on his back. Killing is very simple, just slap the person with a palm and he will die. The pain is life, it is better to die. Cutting in half, being tortured, being burned, and all kinds of torture can make life worse than death. But what is worse than life is worse than death is murder. It is obvious that what the secret Black Hand did to the Li family was to kill Li Dingjiang. And Li Jingwei, to kill Li Wenbo's heart. This is to destroy the Li family and make it infamy for thousands of years. Even if one more son and grandson are killed this time, it will not be able to defeat him. However, the way the murderer killed Li Dingjiang and Li Jingwei made the Li family has become the laughing stock of the world and has become a joke for the ages. Even in another 100 or 200 years, when future generations mention the Li family, they will talk about the shame of the Li family today. After this incident, the Li family will have 100 years of glory. Nothing remains, and it will be infamy for thousands of years. This is something Li Wenbo cannot tolerate, and it is also something he cannot bear. Damn it! Damn it! All deserve to die. Puff. Li Wenbo, who was roaring, suddenly covered his chest with an extremely painful expression. Then a mouthful of blood spurted out and he fell down on his back. Xiao Tian quickly went up to help Li Wenbo, and officials from the governor's mansion who heard the commotion also rushed over. They pushed the door open and happened to see Li Wenbo vomiting blood. Sir, what's going on? Go and ask the doctor quickly. Qingzhou Governor Tang Sichen was very panicked, fearing that Li Wenbo would die in his house. When the yellow mud fell into his crotch, it would be shit or shit. Even if he was not the cause, he would be hated by the officials of Li's party. From then on the future is cut off. Sir, what's going on? How can you vomit blood so well? Tang Sichen stepped forward to help Li Wenbo, and saw that Li Wenbo's face was as pale as paper, his breath was extremely weak, and he had already lost consciousness. From the outside, Li Wenbo seemed to have aged 20 years suddenly, and his energy seemed to have suddenly disappeared. Exhausted. Ding Xiaotian shook his head and did not answer. He just moved it to the bed, injected a burst of true energy to protect Li Wenbo's heart, and then waited for the doctor to come to treat him. After suffering such a heavy blow, Li Wenbo was not angry to death. That's pretty good. Xiao Wuji didn't expect that what he did could actually make Li Wenbo vomit blood. If Xiao Wuji were here, he would definitely hope that Li Wenbo wouldn't die. If Li Wenbo could be angered to death so easily, then it's no longer fun. Besides, the reward for killing Li Wenbo announced by the system has not been obtained yet. We must not let Li Wenbo die so cheaply. The doctor came to the door quickly, and after some rescue efforts, Li Wenbo finally woke up. Although his body was still very weak, but at least my life was saved. Old, husband, want, return, Jinling. Li Wenbo said this intermittently, reluctantly. Although his body was weak, the anger in his heart was already burning, and his murderous intention could not be contained. At this moment, Li Wenbo's eyes were like poisonous snakes, extremely cold, making people feel scared and shuddering when they saw them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 186. Kishalu Stronghold. The mysterious host stood at the window with his hands behind his back. After reading the news from his subordinates, he grinned. This brat is really ruthless in his methods. Treating others with their own treatment, only that kid who is determined to retaliate dares to do this. Li Wenbo is going crazy now. But it's better to be ruthless. If you are not ruthless, you won't be able to stand firmly. If you want to survive in this world, you must be ruthless and use any means necessary. The name Xiao Wuji was not chosen casually. The poster looked out the window calmly, his eyes as deep as a wave in the ocean, unable to see through the true meaning. The Wanhua Tower massacre shocked Jinling and spread throughout the world. Everyone is guessing who the murderer is behind the scenes. But there are only two people in the world. Know the truth. One person is Xiao Wuji who personally concocted the tragedy, and the other person is him, the person who indirectly guided Xiao Wuji to concoct the case. Brat, thank me, old man. I have eliminated all relevant people. The poster used his power in the palm of his hand to shake the note into powder and scatter it into the sky. Just 2 days ago, the poster personally took action and killed Li Dingjiang's guard Hefeng, completely eliminating the last insider. Li Dingjiang tried to deal with it with love threads. Su Wan'er used this to deal with Xiao Wuji. Only 7 people knew about this matter. Li Dingjiang, Li Jingui, and Li Jinggui's bodyguards were dead, as were the Kishalu intelligence officers who received the mission. The host then eradicated the Black Wind who sent the mission. The only insiders left were Xiao Wuji and the poster. Of course Xiao Wuji would not betray himself, and as long as he didn't tell, no one in the world would be able to find out the truth. Whoosh! Suddenly, the sound of breaking wind sounded 22, and a black shadow suddenly appeared behind the poster, kneeling on one knee to salute. Please refer to the original poster. What's the matter? The host didn't turn around, he was still looking out the window. Oh? Who is it? It's Gushin. It turned out to be that old guy, no wonder. The poster had a sneer on his lips, then waved his hand and said, I know, you can go ahead. Yes, my subordinate resigned. The men clasped their fists in salute, and then disappeared in a flash. This time the poster did not let anyone pass the news to Xiao Wuji, he knew it was unnecessary. No one in the world knows Xiao Wuji's strength better than him. It's just a hook. Chen, if you fight against Xiao Wuji, you will die. You cannot threaten him at all. I don't know when, my Xiao family will be able to regain its former glory. Suddenly, the poster murmured in a low voice that no one could hear. At this moment, the poster looked at the sky with very complicated eyes. There was sadness, melancholy, and endless hatred and anger. He clenched his hands behind his back. He made a fist, his knuckles turned white, veins popped up on the back of his hands, and the real energy in his body surged. But soon, the poster's mood returned to calmness, his eyes were as calm as water. It seemed that everything before was an illusion and had never been. It really happened. Just as Xiao Wuji expected, in just 2 days, the Li family has become notorious, and its reputation has completely ruined the streets. It is only a matter of time before it will be infamous for 10,000 years. In the early morning of this day, Xiao Wuji got up comfortably. After washing, I walked to the courtyard and relaxed, feeling relaxed and extremely comfortable. Who would have thought that the massacre at Wanhua Tower that shocked the entire Jinling city was orchestrated by Xiao Wuji? The outside world was already in turmoil, but inside the Xiao mansion it was as calm as water, without any ripples. Xiao Wuji himself was also calm, as if everything had nothing to do with him. "Young master, the Jinyi guards are here and want to see the young master." At this time, a guard from the mansion came over and said respectfully. I got it and asked him to wait for me in the lobby. Xiao Wuji nodded and set off for the lobby of Xiao Mansion. When he arrived at the lobby, Xiao Wuji saw Lei Ba sitting on a chair drinking tea. "Lei Qinhu, why are you free to come to my house today?" Xiao Wuji smiled and stepped forward to say hello. Seeing Xiao Wuji's arrival, Lei Ba quickly stood up to greet him, returned the greeting with his hands, and shouted, "Xiao Qinhu." "Xiao." Wuji said with a smile. Lei Qinhu came just in time. "Have you had breakfast? If you haven't eaten yet, eat something together." "I just got up and haven't had breakfast either." Lei Ba smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Xiao Qinhu, I am not as leisurely as Xiao Qinhu. I was ordered to invite Xiao Qinhu back to Bijin Fuzi." "Go back." Xiao Wuji said. "My vacation is not over yet." "What's going on? Do you want 1,000 households to come and invite you in person?" Lei Ba smiled bitterly and said, "Xiao Qinhu must have heard about the Wanhualo massacre, right?" "Massacre at Wanhua Tower? What is that? I haven't heard of it." Xiao Wuji pretended to be confused and said, "Is it possible that someone was jealous and killed someone in Wanhua Tower? I have been staying in the house these days, discussing music, chess, calligraphy, and painting with my fiancée, but I have no time to pay attention to things outside. As for Wanhua Tower, I haven't been there for a long time." Xiao Wuji picked up a big meat bun, took a bite, and said casually, "There are several cases that happen in Wanhua Tower every year. The reason is nothing more than competition for the warren and quarrels. Even if someone is killed, it's not a big deal, right? Could it be that the murderer this time has a great background?" Lei Ba shook his head and said, "It would be great if it was just like Master Xiao said. This time it's not that the murderer has a great background, but that the deceased has a great background." Lei Ba stared at Xiao Wuji and said word by word, "A few nights ago, Li Dingzhang, the left minister of the household department, and his son Li Jingui died in Wanhua Tower." "What? They are the ones who die?" Xiao Wuji's expression was shocked, expressing his disbelief vividly. "What is the best actor? At this moment, Xiao Wuji is the best actor." "No way. Has the news been confirmed?" Xiao Wuji asked in a deep voice. Lei Ba nodded and said, "Of course the news is confirmed. If it is not confirmed, I don't dare to tell Xiao Qinhu." After investigation, it was found that Li Dingzhang and Li Jingui and his son were captured and killed from the Li mansion, and no one discovered the whole process. This murderer is really amazing. Now this matter has spread throughout Jinling City, and now the streets and alleys are talking about it. The reputation of the Li family is completely over. Lei Ba shook his head and sighed, sighing. Xiao Wuji said with emotion, I didn't expect that. I just haven't been out for a few days, and such a major case would happen in the city. Is the security situation in Jinling City so bad now? We can't blame the security for this. Lei Ba took a sip of tea and continued, the murderer is very powerful. How could the pawns patrolling the streets find him? After personal inspection, the death conditions of Li Dingjiang and Li Jingui were horrific, and they were suspected to have been cruelly tortured by the murderer during their lifetime. The most important thing is that they were killed in full view of the public. The impact of this incident was extremely bad and has alarmed Tianyuan. His Majesty Longyan was furious and ordered Jin Yiwei, Li Aman, and Dong Chang to work together to investigate the case. Below is the Jin Yiwei Qinhu who was assigned to investigate the case this time. Xiao Wuji nodded silently to express his understanding, and then asked, why did Lei Qinhu come to me if he doesn't investigate the case quickly? I know nothing about this matter. Lei Ba laughed awkwardly, looked at Xiao Wuji and said, during my investigation, didn't I find that Xiao Qinhu had a conflict with Li Jingui a few days ago, that's why. Xiao Wuji nodded and said with a smile, I see, I am also one of the suspects. Lei Ba quickly waved his hand and said, Xiao Qinhu, don't get me wrong, I absolutely believe that Xiao Qinhu is not the murderer. But it's useless for me to believe it. People from Li Amanman and Dongchang don't believe it. They want to ask in person, so Yuan Qinhu ordered Xiao Qinhu to come down and ask Xiao Qinhu to return to Bijin Fuzi. In that case, let's take a trip. Xiao Wuji nodded and said righteously, I am not afraid of slanting shadows when I am upright. I have a clear conscience and am not afraid of others asking. Lei Ba nodded and said, it's good that Xiao Qinhu understands. What I did today was indeed something I did wrong. I will definitely apologize to Xiao Qinhu in the future. Xiao Wuji smiled and said, Lei Qinhu acted in accordance with the law. What's wrong with that? Besides, as a member of Jinyue, it is natural for me to cooperate with the investigation. Lei Qinhu does not need to take it to heart. Lei Ba cupped his hands and said, Xiao Qinhu is upright and open-minded. I admire him. Xiao Wuji smiled and was non-committal. He, Xiao, has always been above board in doing things and never secretive. Xiao Wuji has long thought of someone doubting him. After all, Xiao Wuji had just been there a few days ago. There was a conflict with Li Jingui. Li Jingui died a few days later. This was too coincidental. It was natural for Xiao Wuji to be listed as a suspect. If Jinyue, Li Aman, and 817 Dongchang couldn't even find this out, then they are too useless. But Xiao Wuji is not afraid of investigating, after all, he did not leave any clues. Unless a god comes down to earth and uses the magical magic of turning back time, no one can find Xiao Wuji. Soon, Xiao Wuji and Lei Ba returned to Fuzi, Bijin. In the middle hall of Qinhuizhuo, Xiao Wuji not only saw Yuan Xiong, but also saw a red-robed head catcher and an eunuch from the East Factory. I also know a little bit about the doors. I know that the 6 door catchers from top to bottom are divided into divine catchers, red catchers, gold catchers, silver catchers, etc. There are only 2 divine catchers, one correct and the other. The main god hunter is named Xian Yuan Kisha, he is a great master, and he is also on the heavenly ranking. Xiao Wuji can no longer remember whether he is in the 10 or 20 on the heavenly ranking. The deputy god hunter is named Xiahasuans, and he is also on the heavenly ranking. The great masters are powerful, but they are not listed on the heavenly list. Under Xianyu and Kisha and Xiahasuans, there are 4 red-clothed arresters. These 4 are all powerful masters, and 2 of them are listed on the earthly list. The red coat is a gift from the emperor, and its status is equivalent to the 13 Taibao of the Jinyi Guard. Therefore, although the red-coated head catcher and the gold-coated head catcher are both at the master level, the rights and status of the 2 sides are very different. The subsequent gold-coated head catcher, the number of arestas in silver clothes is unknown. Generally speaking, the strength of the 6 gates is not weak, but there is a gap with the Jinyue. Whether it is a Grand Master Master or a Master Master, the number of Jinyue is greater than that of the 6 gates. As for Na Dongchang eunuch, Xiao Wuji couldn't see the difference. It was really Xiao Wuji who knew too little about Dongchang. Ever since the mission of escorting the beautiful girl, Xiao Wuji swore that he would never have anything to do with Dongchang. The people in Dongchang are all bad at heart. I want to make him a eunuch if I don't agree with him. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 187. Third brother, here I come. Xiao Wuji walked into the middle hall of the Kinhu Institute with a normal expression, and bowed his hands to Yuan Xiong in greeting. Yuan Xiong nodded, pointed at the red-robed head catcher and said, "Let me introduce to you, this is the red-robed general manager of the 6 doors. Head catcher Su Weifeng. Su Captu has been a member of the 6 sects for more than 40 years and has chased countless murderers. He has made great contributions to the imperial court and is regarded as the 3rd best catcher in the world, second only to the current 6 sect gods, Xianyuan Kisha and Zaya Hasuans." Xiao Wuji looked at Su Weifeng, cupped his fists in greeting. "Xiao Wuji, I have seen Su Captu." Su Weifeng did not dare to be arrogant, and quickly raised his hand in return and said with a smile, "Xiao Kinhu is so polite. Xiao Kinhu's name is like thunder, and I have heard of it for a long time. Xiao Kinhu, please don't listen to Yuan Kinhu's nonsense. I don't dare to compare myself with Master Shenhua. It's really embarrassing me. Xianyuan Kisha and Zaya Hasuans have very great prestige in the 6 sections. Everyone in the 6 sects from top to bottom is convinced by them. Therefore, Su Weifeng behaves in front of outsiders. Very respectful. And this one?" Yuan Xiong pointed to the Dongchang eunuch and introduced, "This is Cao Yanko's father-in-law, the head stall owner of Dongchang and the adopted son of Cao Wanchun. Yes, he is another important figure. Whether it is Su Weifeng or Cao Yan, they are both important figures in Liamen and Dongchang. The emperor sent them to jointly investigate, which shows that he attaches great importance to this matter." Xiao Wuji looked at Cao Yan, he cupped his fists in greeting and said, "I have met eunuch Cao. Xiao Kinhu is polite." Cao Yan returned the gift with a smile and said, "Our family has heard of Xiao Kinhu's name for a long time, but we have never had the opportunity to meet him. When we met today, Xiao Kinhu turned out to be a talented person with an extraordinary temperament. Cao Peng also suggested to our family that he wanted Xiao Kinhu to join Dongchang, but unfortunately Xiao Kinhu refused. Our Dong factory is hungry for talents, but we lack talents like Xiao Kinhu. Xiao Kinhu might as well think about it again. The door of our East factory will be open to Xiao Kinhu at any time." Xiao Wuji felt a chill when he heard it, his face twitched, and a chill came into his heart. Sure enough, none of these eunuchs in the East factory were good. Cao Peng was like this before, and Cao Yan is like this now. Everyone wants to take him as his leader. Eunuch. What the hell, do you really think he is easy to bully? You don't even look at the occasion when you say something? I am now a guard of thousands of households, the 13th eunuch, or a county uncle personally named by the emperor. I am rich and powerful, and I have a beautiful wife and concubine right in front of me. I only became a eunuch because I have a brain defect. I appreciate eunuch Cao's kindness, but Jin Yi Wei is very good, and I don't want to change jobs, so I can only disappoint my father-in-law." Xiao Wuji's words already contained a bit of coldness. Cao Yan didn't seem to hear Xiao Wuji's coldness, shaking his head and sighing, "It's a pity, it's such a pity. Damn it, it's a pity that your grandma has such a bad leg." Xiao Wuji's face was expressionless, but the veins on his neck popped out, and he could hardly suppress his anger. "What kind of grudge do I have against you? You insist on dragging me to be a eunuch. I have never been a scumbag to your woman. Okay, you are going too far to dig a corner in front of me, Cao Yan. Yuan. Xiong said coldly from the side. Haha, sorry, it was our fault. Cao Yanqian laughed twice and quickly took a step back. This is Bijan Fuzi, and he doesn't dare to barge with Yuan Xiong here. Wuji, I called you here today because I want to ask about Li Jingwei. Yuan Xiong looked at Xiao Wuji and said, no matter what they ask you, you just need to answer truthfully. With me here, no one can frame you. After saying that, Yuan Xiong glanced at Su Weifeng and Cao Yan, the warning in his eyes was full of warning. Yuan Xiong, like Xia Yongxuan, is a very protective person. Xiao Wuji is his brother, so he will naturally not let Xiao Wuji suffer. Bai's Hejian. Xiao Wuji nodded and said, I understand. Sometimes Xiao Wuji has to sigh, it feels really good to have someone supporting him behind his back. Let me ask first. Su Afeng took a step forward, looked at Xiao Wuji and asked, may I ask Xiaoqianhu, did you have a conflict with Li Jingwei 7 days ago? This is indeed the case. Xiao Wuji nodded. Su Afeng asked again, why did Xiaoqianhu conflict with Li Jingwei? According to my investigation, Xiaoqianhu not only killed Li Jingwei's horse in the street, but also slapped Li Jingwei twice. Is it true? Xiao Wuji said that's true, but the cause of this matter is not me, but Li Jingwei. That day when I returned to Beijing to resume my duties and transport the loot to Qinglong Street, I happened to meet Li Jingwei, who was riding a horse in the downtown area of Jinling. His mount went crazy and slammed straight into the officer. The officer had no choice but to kill his horse, and Li Jingwei fell from the horse. However, Li Jingwei behaved arrogantly and domineeringly. He immediately threatened to kill his entire family, and also ordered his subordinates to injure people. I have no choice but to take action to protect myself. Xiao Wuji told the truth. Everything he said is the truth. All the people watching can testify. Stop. Su Afeng nodded when he heard the words. What Xiao Wuji said was exactly the same as what he found. Then Su Afeng asked again, Li Jingwei threatened. He wanted to kill Xiaoqianhu's whole family. Did Xiaoqianhu have murderous intentions at that time? Want to kill this person? Xiao Wuji nodded and said, I did have murderous intentions at that time. At that time, I did not know the identity of Li Jingwei. I only knew that this person was a Jinyue who knew the law and broke the law. He galloped his horse in the bustling city of Jinling in public, endangering the people. This person is also arrogant and shameless, and he wants to kill his whole family if he disagrees with him. This shows how arrogant this person's behavior is. Human life is like grass in his eyes. He dares to threaten even his own officials, let alone ordinary people. Such a black sheep, as a member of the Imperial Guard of Qinhu, I naturally want to eradicate him. Jin Yiwei's reputation was ruined by people like this. Just when I was about to take action, Luo Chengying, a householder in Nanzan Fuzi, came, begged for mercy, and pointed out Li Jingwei's identity at the same time. The officer had no choice but to order a punishment and then left. When Xiao Wuji replied, Su Afeng's eyes were fixed on Xiao Wuji. His eyes were extremely sharp, trying to see something from Xiao Wuji's expression. Of course Su Afeng didn't know what micro-expressions were. He had just been interrogating prisoners for many years, he just developed the ability to tell whether the prisoner is lying from the face of the prisoner. However, Xiao Wuji can control his micro-expressions freely, without revealing any flaws from the beginning to the end. Is it really not him? Xiao Wuji's answer was watertight, and Su Afeng had gradually let go of his doubts about Xiao Wuji. But in the end he asked a question, didn't Xiaoqianhu think about revenge afterwards? After all, Li Jingwei threatened to kill Xiaoqianhu's entire family. Xiao Wuji said even if I wanted to take revenge, I would not choose to commit a crime in Jinling City. Isn't that asking for death? Besides, Li Dingzhong and Li Jingui and his son were captured from the Li mansion silently, and I don't have this ability. Su Afeng nodded, completely letting go of the last trace of doubt in his heart. Xiao Wuji was right. Being able to seize Li Dingzhong, Li Jingui, and a dozen dead soldiers from the Li mansion silently was definitely not something Xiao Wuji could do. The person who did this must be a Grand Master, and he is also the best among the Grand Masters. Xiao Wuji was not a big suspect at first, but now after some questioning, Su Afeng has completely eliminated Xiao Wuji from the suspects. Su Afeng saw he said to Cao Yan, I have finished asking questions. Does eunuch Cao have anything else to ask, Cao? Yan shook his head and said, I have asked all the questions that need to be asked. Our family has nothing to ask. Moreover, our family has never suspected Xiao Qinhu from the beginning. Xiao Qinhu is a member of the Jinyi Guard Qinhu, and he is loyal to his duties. How could he commit such a horrific tragedy? Su Captu, you have been suspicious from the beginning. There is no need to specially invite Xiao Qinhu back for questioning today. Now that Xiao Wuji's suspicion has been eliminated, Cao Yan is naturally willing to sell Xiao Wuji a good deal. Su Afeng looked at the smiling Cao Yan, his face twitched, he rolled his eyes wildly, and he was scolding Cao Yan in his heart. Lei Ba can forget it, after all, we are colleagues with Xiao Wuji, so it is natural not to suspect anything. But before, you and I both supported questioning Xiao Wuji, but now you don't admit it and directly sold me. Is there anyone who does this? In this way, it seems he, Su Afeng, was the only one who suspected Xiao Wuji and became the target of public criticism. Damn it, these eunuchs are really dirty. Su Afeng cursed in his heart. Okay, the matter of Li Jingui has been completely clear, and it has nothing to do with Xiao Wuji. Yuan Xiong said, Li Jingui behaves arrogantly. He knows the law and breaks it. He dares to commit crimes below and threatens to kill everyone. He really deserves to die. Now that he is dead, that's it. If he hadn't died, I would still be investigating his crimes. I, Jin Yue, will not allow such scum to exist. When Su Afeng and Cao Yan heard this, they all bowed their hands and saluted, and said in unison, Master Yuan punishes severely and fulfills his duties loyally. It is really a blessing for the great Zhou dynasty. Su Afeng said, since this matter is over, I will take my leave first. Cao Yan also said, our family also said goodbye. Yuan Xiong's previous words not only scolded Manyos, Li Jingui, but were also a farewell order, so they could naturally hear it. Before leaving, Cao Yan glanced at Xiao Wuji and said, if Xiao Qinhu, if you change your mind one day, you can come to Dongchang at any time. The door of my East factory will always be open to Xiao Qinhu. Before leaving, Cao Yan wanted to kill someone and challenge Xiao Wuji's bottom line. If he were not in Fuzi, Bijin at this moment, Xiao Wuji would have wanted to kill Cao Yan. The subordinate also resigned first. Lei Ba saluted Yuan Xiong and turned to leave. Xiao Wuji saw that Lei Ba's face was extremely ugly and distressed. It was obvious that the one Huolo massacre was a headless case, and it would be even harder to find out. Even if it is impossible for Su Afeng, Cao Yan, and Lei Ba to work together to find out. Not to mention that the emperor only gave them 7 days to fight. Lei Ba will have a thankless job when he encounters this kind of thing. The case cannot be solved by then, and he will suffer. Punishment is certain. The younger brother also said goodbye first. My younger brother's vacation is not over yet. Everyone has left, so naturally Xiao Wuji won't stay. He made an appointment with Wan'er and will go to the lake today. You wait a moment. Yuan Xiong stopped Xiao Wuji, pulled him back to Qinhu Zhongtang, and at the same time waved his sleeves and closed the door. What's wrong? Third brother. UN. Xiong looked at Xiao Wuji and said solemnly, tell the truth to third brother. Do the deaths of Li Dingjiang and Li Jingui have anything to do with you? Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 188. Yuan Xiong looked at Xiao Wuji and said solemnly, tell the truth to third brother, do the deaths of Li Dingjiang and Li Jingui have anything to do with you? At this moment, Yuan Xiong's expression was extremely solemn. This was the first time Xiao Wuji saw Yuan Xiong like this. Xiao Wuji was startled, secretly sighing that Yuan Xiong's sense of smell was really sharp. Su Weifeng, the third best catcher in the world, had put down his doubts about him, but Yuan Xiong did not give up. Xiao Wuji looked as usual and said, third brother, didn't I tell you? I really didn't kill Li Dingjiang and Li Jingui. Besides, there are so many experts in the Li family, crouching tigers, hidden dragons, I can't kill them even if I want to. Yuan Xiong took a deep look at Xiao Wuji, nodded and said, there is no best. Remember what you said today. No matter who asks you in the future, you must deny it. Xiao Wuji smiled and said, if you are upright, you are not afraid of the shadow. I didn't do it. Why should I admit it? Yuan Xiong nodded and said, you go ahead. The younger brother resigned. After that, Xiao Wuji opened the door and strode away. Yuan Xiong kept looking at Xiao Wuji's back, and did not look away until Xiao Wuji completely disappeared. Do you think what he said is true? A voice suddenly sounded behind Yuan Xiong, and then a middle-aged man wearing a flying fish suit and a sword hanging on his waist came out. He was about the same age as Yuan Xiong, and he also had a very majestic look. His eyes were like eagle eyes, his eyes were sharp and flashed with cold light. Yuan Xiong had no expression on his face and said calmly, since Wuji said he didn't do it, I naturally believe him. He was indeed right. With his strength, it was impossible to seize Li Dingjiang and Li Jingui from the Li Mansion silently. The Grand Master who is in charge of the Li Mansion is not a decoration. If someone goes in, they will definitely find it. Don't you think too many people from the Li family have died in the past few months? Yuan Xiong said calmly, what do you want to say? Li Dingshan had a grudge against Xiao Wuji, and then Li Dingshan also died. Finally, there are Li Jingui and Li Dingjiang. One death was an accident, 2 deaths were a coincidence, but 4 deaths all at once can't all be called coincidences, right? The people in the Li family are not just cats and dogs who can be killed if they want. For more than 10 years, many martial arts masters have tried to kill them, but they all failed in the end. But in recent months, 4 important figures in the Li family have died suddenly, and all of them had grievances with Xiao Wuji, which has to make people suspicious. Yuan Xiong's face darkened, he looked at the middle-aged man and said, the one who killed Li Lin and Li Dingshan was the golden-faced Lion King among the 7 evils of Mobei. What does it have to do with Xiao Wuji? That's not necessarily the case. The middle-aged man said calmly. According to my investigation, the 7 Shahs of Mobei have not appeared in the world for a long time. Even the golden-faced Lion King disappeared completely after attacking Li Dingshan. You know my ability. If I want to track down someone, there are not many people in the world who can't track me down. But Kisha Mobei has no clues. Either they were hiding in the demon sect or the 3 sects of Buddhism and Taoism, or they were killed and became dead. Of course I can't find a group of dead people. Yuan Xiong said, who has such great ability, can you kill the 7 evils of Mobei? Xiao Wuji does not have that kind of strength. The middle-aged man said, so I suspect there is someone behind Xiao Wuji, and it was him who took action to clear the way for Xiao Wuji. Anyone who poses a threat to Xiao Wuji will be eliminated by him. You mean the Guardian? Yuan Xiong glanced at the middle-aged man, shook his head and said, have we not already confirmed this? There is no protector behind Xiao Wuji. The middle-aged man said, maybe we didn't check carefully enough, or maybe the person was too strong and we couldn't detect it. Yuan Xiong took a deep look at the man, looked away and looked out the door, and said in a deep voice without real evidence, "I will not doubt my brother." Although Wuji is young, he eradicated the rebels of the demon cult, captured the rebel king, rescued the enemy, and made countless contributions to the court. I believe him. Besides, he is now the 13th Taibao. He is not only my brother, but also your brother. You should not doubt him casually. The middle-aged man shook his head and laughed, patted Yuan Xiong on the shoulder and said, "Yuan Xiong, you are still like this, trusting others too easily. But since you said so, that's all I'll say. I hope it is true as you said, Xiao Wuji has no problem." After saying that, the middle-aged man walked towards the door. In addition to the sword, there was also a royal guard token on his waist, with a blood-red big character 2 written on it. This man's name was Zhou Chunkaiu, who was also ranked the 13th eunuch of Jinyue, and the second eunuch above Yuan Xiong. Seeing that Zhou Chunkaiu was about to leave, Yuan Xiong said, "Don't you want to stay for a few more days? We haven't seen each other for a long time, just catching up on old times." Zhou Chunkaiu waved his hand and said, "I don't have as much free time as you. I can stay in Jinling all the time. There are still many things for me to deal with in northern Xinjiang. Recently, a large number of refugees have rebelled, and there are people from the Destiny sect behind them. I must return to northern Xinjiang as soon as possible to take charge." There were only 12 of the 13 Taibao of the Great Zhou dynasty before Xiao Wuji took over. Of these 12 people, only Yuan Xiong and one other person were stationed in Jinling City all year round. Some of the remaining 10 were distributed in important areas of the Great Zhou dynasty, and some were they are performing important tasks. There are also several people who have been lurking in foreign countries all year round, responsible for collecting important military information of enemy countries or establishing intelligence networks in enemy countries. Even if they can return to Beijing to report on their duties, they cannot stay for a long time. Zhou Chunkaiu's return to Beijing is also a good time. And it happened to happen that the Wanhuolo massacre happened. Unlike Yuan Xiong, he was suspicious by nature, so he secretly investigated and found some doubts about Xiao Wuji. However, these doubts were irrelevant and could not prove the relationship between Xiao Wuji and the Li family. People were being killed one after another. Zhou Chunkaiu just judged based on experience and felt that Xiao Wuji was related to the Wanhuolo massacre. Even if he didn't do it, he must know something. However, the emperor has handed over this case to Lei Ba and others for investigation. And he was leaving Beijing soon, so he could only remind Yuan Xiong. As for what the final result would be, to be honest, Zhou, Chunkaiu didn't care. After all, the Li family and Jinyue had not dealt with each other for many years. Now that he saw something happen to the Li family, Zhou Chunkaiu felt a little relieved. Zhou Chunkaiu left, leaving Bijin Fuzi in a swagger. But Zhou Chunkaiu didn't notice that there was a pair of eyes staring at him behind him. These eyes, the owner is surprisingly Xiao Wuji. Unexpectedly, Zhou Chunkaiu, the second eunuch, returned to Beijing. The person who was hiding in the secret just now should be him. Xiao Wuji's face was expressionless, his eyes were deep, and he didn't look away until Zhou Chunkaiu's back completely disappeared. With Xiao Wuji's skill, Zhou Chunkaiu could not hide it from him by hiding in the dark. It's just that he didn't reveal it. Not only this time, many times before, Xiao Wuji discovered that there was a third person present when he was talking to Yuan Xiong. I think that person was also one of the 13 Taibao, but before that person is not as strong as Zhou Chunkaiu. The Jinyue's crouching tiger, hidden dragon is truly worthy of its reputation. Xiao Wuji smiled, turned, and left. He boasted that he had done a clean job, and even if the other 12 Taibao teamed up to investigate the case, they could not find him. Time passed quickly, and 7 days passed by in a flash. Just like Xiao Wuji expected, Lei Ba, Su Aifeng and Cao Yan led hundreds of people to conduct overt and covert investigations for 7 days, but found nothing in the end. During these 7 days, Lei Bia, Su Aifeng, and Cao Yan worked hard to investigate the details of the Wanhuolo tragedy. After dozens of times, no useful clues were found in the end. This case was done so cleanly that no flaws could be found at all. In the end, the 3 people had no choice but to report the results to Emperor Jingtai, which made Emperor Jingtai furious. Lei Bia, Su Aifeng, and Cao Yan were all punished to varying degrees. The rod punishment and salary were the most basic, and the 3 were almost dismissed. Fortunately, Xia Yongxuan, Xianyuan Kisha and Cao Wanchun came forward to intercede and the 3 were saved. At the same time, Li Wenbo received the emperor's imperial edict and finally rushed back to Jinling from Qingzhou. However, on the day he returned to Beijing, before he entered the gate of Jinling city, he heard rumors in an inn outside the city. Did you hear that? Li Dingzhong of the Li family turns out to like men. I heard it, Li Dingjiang's son also likes men. Sure enough, like father, like son. Both father and son are the same. No one would believe them if they were not biological father and son. Since both sons and grandsons like men, then the current chief minister also likes men, right? No, this is unlikely, right? How is it impossible? Both his son and grandson are like this. The chief minister must also like men. But the chief assistant has married more than 30 wives and concubines, how could he like men? Do you understand that it is a cover-up? In order to continue the family line, of course the chief minister wants to marry a wife and have children, but in fact, what he really likes is a man. I heard that all the men in the Li family have this hobby, and they are all the same from oldest to youngest. Alas, my family is unlucky. The Li family is really a celebrity this time. Jinling City has been very lively recently, and people are talking about it in the streets and alleys. I heard that someone also compiled a storybook about the Wanhuolo massacre. They were telling the story in the inn. There were so many people listening that the inn was almost packed. It's a pity that Wanhua building is closed. I don't know when it will reopen. We haven't seen each other for so long, Miss Biaoxiang, Miss Zixi must have missed me. Fart, they were thinking of me. Oh? Do you also know Miss Biaoxiang and Miss Zixi? Of course. No respect, it turns out that the 2 brothers are in the same camp. In the inn, a group of men were shouting. They were drunk, talking happily and talking nonsense. Little did they know, what they said was clearly heard by Li Wenbo in the private room on the 2nd floor. Bang! Li Wenbo slammed the wine glass. Slapping it on the table, the wine glass was like a dart, embedded directly into the table. At this moment, Li Wenbo's face was gloomy, his eyes revealed murderous intent, and his eyes were colder than poisonous snakes. Master, I'll go down and kill them. Beside Li Wenbo, an old guard said coldly. The smell of blood is too strong, which is not good for Mr. Xiaozu's health. Another guard said. Li Wenbo was depressed because of the damage to the Li family's reputation. Although he had been recovering for a few days, he had not fully recovered. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 189. Li Wenbo nodded silently, stood up, and led others out of the inn. When he went downstairs, Li Wenbo glanced at the people in the inn expressionlessly, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. After walking out of the inn, Li Wenbo said coldly, "Leave no chickens or dogs behind." Yes. The guards clasped their fists and accepted the order, then turned around and returned to the inn. With a clang, the doors and windows of the inn closed automatically. Then miserable wails and screams came from the inn, and the paper on the doors and windows was stained red with blood and bloomed blossoming blood flowers. Although not everyone said bad things about the Li family, in Li Wenbo's eyes, even hearing bad words was a capital crime. Everyone in the inn deserved to die. In less than half a cup of tea, the inn door reopened. Opening it, several guards walked out of the inn door expressionlessly, their bodies more or less stained with blood. Li Wenbo and his party quickly left the place. Everyone in the inn had been killed, and the ground was stained red with blood. Bodies were lying on the ground, lying on the table or lying on the stairs. Those who spoke ill of the Li family had their tongues cut out. From the inside to the outside of the inn, not to mention people, even chickens, ducks, cats, and dogs. They were all killed. It can be said that no chickens or dogs were left behind. Li Wenbo returned to Jinling City and was greeted by people from the Li family at the city gate. After entering Jinling City, Li Wenbo realized that compared with the inside of Jinling City, those in the inn outside the city just said the rumors about the Li family are nothing but pediatrics. Rumors about the Li family have spread overwhelmingly. People are talking in almost every corner of the streets and alleys. Li Wenbo was sitting in the carriage, listening to the discussions coming from outside. His face was livid with anger, trembling all over. "Master, do you want me?" The guard next to him made a silencing gesture. Fortunately, outside Jinling City, there were few people there, and Li Wenbo could still let his guards kill people and silence them. But this is Jinling City, and even if he is the chief assistant, he would not dare to kill in broad daylight. Besides, everyone in Jinling City is talking about this matter. He can't kill everyone, right? Everyone is talking, they are killing each other incessantly. At this moment, even Li Wenbo couldn't help but feel helpless and desperate. He knew that the Li family's century-old reputation was completely over after this incident. His Li family is destined to be nailed to the pillar of shame, to be ridiculed by future generations, and to be infamy for thousands of years. Damn you beast, I will never let you go. No matter who you are or what your background is, I will kill you in this life. Li Wenbo's heart boils with murderous intent. This murderous intent comes from the person who single-handedly destroyed the reputation of the Li family. Li Wenbo has never wanted to kill someone so much. As long as he can kill this person, Li Wenbo is willing to pay any price, even if he is broken into pieces. Blood-slaughtered Ding Xiaotian glanced at Li Wenbo and felt chilled in his heart when he saw him so calm. Only he knew that Li Wenbo was on the verge of madness. No one could predict what a madman would do. Has this old dog finally returned to Beijing? Li Wenbo didn't know that when his carriage passed by Qinglong Street, there was a pair of eyes staring at his carriage from the window of the roadside restaurant. The owner of these eyes was Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji single-handedly created Wanhua Tower after the tragedy. Xiao Wuji knew that Li Wenbo would definitely return to Beijing. So during this period, he had been secretly paying attention to the movements of the Li mansion and was waiting on Qinglong Street. This is the only way from Jinling City Gate to the Li mansion. If Li Wenbo, when you come back, you will definitely pass by here. Only when Li Wenbo returns to Beijing, Xiao Wuji has the chance to kill him. Old dog, cherish your time is running out. Xiao Wuji glanced indifferently at the faraway carriage, withdrew his gaze, and left with his men. After that, Xiao Wuji returned to Beijing Fuzi, where he fished and ate melon seeds and lay down all day. At night, just after midnight, Xiao Wuji left the Xiao mansion silently. That's right, Xiao Wuji didn't want to wait for a moment. Revenge doesn't take overnight, and if you want to do it, you have to do it all at once. After disguising himself, the golden mask that had disappeared for a long time, the Lion King returned to the world. This time Xiao Wuji did not come empty-handed. He also brought the golden-faced Lion King's unique weapon, the lion's head sword. When Xiao Wuji took the knife, he just wanted to sell it to make money. But later Xiao Wuji discovered, the identity of the golden-faced Lion King is still very useful, and paired with the Lion King's exclusive weapon, the lion-headed sword, the identity will be more real. So Xiao Wuji did not sell the knife, but kept it for the future. Today, the lion-headed sword reappears in the world, and it is bound to kill people happily and drink blood. Xiao Wuji, no, it was the golden-faced Lion King with a ferocious smile on his lips. He swayed and turned into a black shadow and flew towards Li Mansion. This was Xiao Wuji's third visit to Li Mansion. After entering Li Mansion quietly, still no one has discovered his existence. Where is the old dog? Xiao Wuji walked unimpeded in the Li Mansion under the cover of night. He soon found Li Wenbo in a back house. In the backyard of the Li Mansion, Li Wenbo stood with his hands behind his hands, looking at the lotus pond in front of him expressionlessly. Behind him, a group of guards held torches, lighting up the backyard as bright as day. And on the ground behind Li Wenbo, there were 40 or 50 corpses lying in random directions. Judging from the clothes of the corpses, they were all guards of the Li Mansion. Or a dead soldier. What is Li Wenbo doing? Kill your own people as soon as you get home. Vent your anger. Xiao Wuji hid in the dark and watched, wondering in his heart. Spare your life, master. We really tried our best. We really don't know how the murderer sneaked into Li's house. There are still 7 or 8 people who are not dead. They are kneeling on the ground and kowtow to Li Wenbo to beg for mercy. The forehead of the dead soldier was smashed, the skin was torn and the blood was bleeding, but Li Wenbo was turned a deaf ear. I raised you to look after the house and the hospital. Since you are not good at protecting the Lord, what are you still doing? Keeping a dog that cannot guard the house is a waste of food. After Li Wenbo finished speaking, he waved his hand gently. The guards behind him immediately swung their butcher knives and killed the 7 or 8 dead soldiers who begged for mercy on the spot. Master, I have asked all the questions that need to be asked, but do you want to call the next batch? An old man came up behind Li Wenbo and asked respectfully. No need, I asked so many people and they all said they didn't know, and there will be no results if I ask again. Li Wenbo sighed, a little helpless. Li Wenbo has obtained the files of the Wanhuolo massacre, and Li Wenbo also knows the entire death process of Li Dingjiang and Li Jingwei. People from Jinyue, Liamen, and Dongchang all said that there was the peerless master quietly sneaked into the Li Mansion, captured Li Dingjiang and Li Jingwei, and then took them to Wanhua Tower to poison them. But Li Wenbo didn't believe it. The Li Mansion has a cloud of masters, and its defense power can be ranked among the best in the world. At the forefront. He didn't believe that someone could arrest people in Li's mansion silently without being discovered, unless there was an internal thief communicating with an outsider. So the first thing Li Wenbo did when he returned home was to thoroughly investigate all the guards and dead soldiers in the mansion. He wanted to find the traitor. But after killing nearly 60 people, he still found nothing. This made Li Wenbo doubt his judgment. Could it be that I am really worrying too much? Is there no mole in the house? Li Wenbo frowned and became even more anxious. If he can't find any clues, he will have no hope of revenge. Now he doesn't even know whether the murderer is a man or a woman, how old he is, how tall, short, fat or thin he is. How can he take revenge? Whoosh! At this moment, something unexpected happened. A flash of sword light suddenly lit up in the dark night. Accompanied by a wild lion's roar, the sword light came to the sky above Li Wenbo's head and struck down angrily towards Li Wenbo. Master, beware! Get out of the way! There is an assassin! Behind Li Wenbo, many of the dead soldiers guarding them looked horrified and shouted warnings. Several dead soldiers immediately used Qing Kung Fu and rushed towards Li Wenbo, trying to save people. Li Wenbo turned around suddenly and watched the beam falling from the sky. Not only was he not afraid of the sword light, but he also showed a sneer, "You finally appeared." Before he finished speaking, the light of the sword crushed down, splitting Li Wenbo into blood mist, leaving no bones. After beheading Li Wenbo, the light of the sword continued to fly forward without resting, splitting the lotus pond from the middle. Boom! There was a loud noise, the boulder exploded, the water column splashed, and the sound spread to every corner of Li Mansion. The sword light dissipated, and Xiao Wuji revealed his true body. But at this moment, Xiao Wuji did not feel the joy of killing Li Wenbo, but his face was full of joy. Dignity. Because what he just killed was just a stand-in, and the real Li Wenbo was not here at all. The system did not respond, which proved that Xiao Wuji's judgment was correct, and he was indeed a stand-in. The cunning old fox finally escaped from his shell. Xiao Wuji turned over and landed on a rockery, secretly sighing at Li Wenbo's cunning. This old dog with all the power in the world is more cunning than a fox. It is indeed not that easy to kill. The substitute just now has almost no appearance. Li Wenbo is exactly the same. The subtle movements of his hands and feet are also exactly the same. He must have been imitating Li Wenbo for many years. If the substitute hadn't looked back at Xiao Wuji before he died, Xiao Wuji wouldn't have been able to realize that this person was just a substitute. Use the avatar as bait to lure the killer into taking the bait. As the saying goes, one learns from one's mistakes. With so many people killed in the Li family, it's time for Li Wenbo to learn to be wise. This person's disguise skills are quite impressive. If it were during the day, with Xiao Wuji's level of disguise and eyesight, he would be able to see the flaws of the substitute at a glance. But now it is night, and the substitute has his back to Xiao Wuji, which makes it impossible for Xiao Wuji to see the flaws. There is an assassin, come and catch the assassin. The assassin is in the back house. Lock down the whole government and don't let the assassin escape. The movement here shocked the entire Li family. Along with a series of roars, 800 soldiers from the Li family came from all directions. The masters of the Li family also came out and stood in every corner of the backyard, and the roof was also densely packed. He killed people and blocked all Xiao Wuji's escape routes. One on the left and one on the right had a master on each side. There was a person on the left, wrapped in a black robe, with only a pair of scarlet eyes exposed. He was the one Xiao Wuji had fought with last time. The man in black robe. The man on the right is Li Wenbo's personal guard, blood slaughter Ding Xiaotian. Xiao Wuji recognized this man as soon as he appeared. He is on the wanted list of Jin Yiwei. Golden-faced Lion King, it is indeed you, and you actually dare to come. The man in black robe took a step forward, roared sternly, and a terrible murderous aura broke out, forming a violent wind and wave and rushed towards Xiao Wuji. The golden-faced Lion King looked at the man in black robe and sneered disdainfully, "Why don't you dare to come? When I killed Li Dingshan last time, I said that I will come back. The day when I come to Li Mansion again will be the day when Li Wenbo died." Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 190. How? Is Li Wenbo too scared to come out? Is the majestic chief minister of the Zhou dynasty actually afraid of a martial artist like me? I killed his 2 sons and 2 grandsons, ruining the reputation of the Li family and making them infamy for eternity. Doesn't he even dare to look at his enemies? Li Wenbo, come out quickly, I'm here to kill you. The golden-faced Lion King roared loudly, and his voice boomed like thunder, spreading throughout every corner of the Li Mansion. Even when faced with being surrounded by all the masters of the Li Mansion, the golden-faced Lion King was still arrogant and showed no fear at all. Shut up. Blood slaughter Ding Xiaotian couldn't help but shouted angrily, interrupted the golden-faced Lion King to stop him from continuing to speak nonsense. The man in black robe also smiled coldly and said sarcastically, "Stop talking nonsense, golden-faced Lion King. With your strength, it is impossible to sneak into Li Mansion quietly and capture Li Dingzhang and Li Jingwei. Tell me, who is the person who conspired with you? If you say it happily, I can let you die happily tonight. Otherwise, you will soon know what it means to be unable to survive or die." The golden-faced Lion King waved the lion-headed sword, put it on his shoulder, and sneered disdainfully at the man in black. "Why do you think you can't do it with my strength? You don't think that I am weaker than you, do you? Ha 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 ha, don't laugh your head off with laughter. The last time I fought with you 060, I didn't even use 30% of my strength, but I just gave it to you. Do you still take it seriously? If it weren't for tonight, I would have killed you last time. You're just a good-for-nothing old dog, but you really think you're very strong, and you dare to speak so brazenly in front of me. Who do you think you are?" The expression of the golden-faced Lion King can be as disdainful as it is, as much as it deserves a beating. Anyway, at this moment, the golden-faced Lion King deserves a beating the most among so many people present. As long as seeing that expression of wanting to be beaten, everyone wanted to beat up the golden-faced Lion King. Xiao Wuji's taunting skills did not require system upgrades, and they were automatically maxed out after traveling through time. You deserve to die." Being ridiculed by the golden-faced Lion King in front of so many people, the popularity of the black robe exploded. He moved his feet, smashed the roof tiles with a bang, and rushed towards the golden-faced Lion King like a cannonball. "Suffer death, golden-faced Lion King." The man in black robe was condescending, and terrifying true energy erupted all over his body, converging on his palms, and slapped Xiao Wuji hard. Two huge palms shot out of the air, merged into one instantly, and hit the golden face like a mountain. Lion King's heavenly spirit cap. Even though he has a small skill, he still dares to do the same thing. Night Lion with a torch. The golden-faced Lion King snorted disdainfully, and immediately held the lion's head sword with both hands. His feet sank, and then swung the sword from bottom to top. Roar! The sword light appeared, and the wild lion roared. A giant male lion, it took shape in an instant, stepped on the void, and hit the huge palm towards the sky. The lion roared, made of endless sword energy, sharp and unstoppable. There was a loud bang, and the huge palm immediately shattered and turned into a surging force. True energy rushes in all directions. Impossible. The killing move was broken, and the man in black robe immediately suffered a backlash. Blood spurted from the corners of his mouth, and his whole body was wrapped in true energy and flew backwards. His scarlet eyes flashed with disbelief, and he was also a little frightened and panicked. He did not expect that, in his rage, he struck a powerful blow, but was defeated by the golden-faced Lion King. Could it be that, as the golden-faced Lion King said, he was playing a trick on him last time? He didn't use all his strength at all? Impossible, absolutely impossible, I don't believe it. The man in black robe gritted his teeth and roared, turned over to stabilize his body, waved his palms, and brought up a series of palm shadows, and launched his killing move again. But suddenly, a golden light appeared in front of him at lightning speed, and then it was a 60-meter giant sword that fell from the sky and struck his head hard. The mad lion roars into the sky. Before the man in black robe made a move, the golden-faced Lion King's killing move had already arrived first. The giant sword struck down, and the man in black robe looked horrified, and the blood in his body was almost frozen. He wanted to fly away, but found that his body was actually stiff. He couldn't move at all, and could only watch helplessly as the giant sword energy fell head-on. This was because although Xiao Wuji's sword energy had not fallen, the sword energy had already imprisoned the black-robed man, blocking all his escape routes. This was the secret of Aohan's 6 techniques. A frightening glimpse was now integrated into the golden-faced Lion King's sword technique by Xiao Wuji. Because it was just the intention of the sword, outsiders could not detect it at all. No. The man in black robe was horrified and desperate, and roared loudly. The 3-foot air wall automatically unfolded to defend himself. But the 3-foot air wall was extremely fragile. It was crumbling under the crushing force of the sword energy and was full of cracks in an instant. At the critical moment, a giant blood-colored sword energy came through the air, and when it met the golden lion sword energy of the golden-faced Lion King, it was blood-slaughter Ding Xiaotian who took action. As a guest of the Li mansion, there was no way he could just watch the golden-faced Lion King take the black robe. The man was beheaded. There was a clang of the sword, the two swords collided, and the sword chi exploded, turning into tiny sword chi that filled the sky and shot out in all directions. The man in black robe was closest to the collision point of the sword chi and bore the brunt. After the 3-foot wall of chi was shattered, he was struck by the knife. The energy shot out backwards. His black robe exploded, his mouth and nose were bleeding, and countless blood spurted out from his body, as if he had been cut into pieces by 1,000 knives. "Get out of the way!" General Fu Bing shouted loudly, ordering his men to stay away from the center of the battlefield. The aftermath of any sword energy can easily kill a master. These soldiers, who are not even innate, will be dead once they encounter them. However, it was too late for the general to warn, and the sword energy had completely exploded. Whoosh! 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 Balls of sword energy flew past, instantly bringing up large splashes of flesh and blood. Soldiers who failed to escape in time were instantly torn apart by the sword energy. It turned into a blood mist, and there were no whole corpses. With just one attack, 70 or 80 soldiers died tragically on the spot. The dead soldiers of Li Mansion also suffered heavy casualties. "Get away, stay away!" The general of the army was stunned and roared. He stared at the golden-faced Lion King on the roof, his eyes were scarlet and filled with infinite hatred. The one who injured him last time was also the golden-faced Lion King, and this time he was slaughtered. The soldier under his command is still the golden-faced Lion King. Now the golden-faced Lion King has become a nightmare in his heart. On the one hand, the general wants to kill the golden-faced Lion King. He and his soldiers took revenge. On the other hand, he was extremely afraid of the golden-faced Lion King, because he knew that he was no match. All the soldiers and dead soldiers evacuated, retreated outside the courtyard, and surrounded the small courtyard. The man in black robe was slaughtered by Ding Xiao in blood. Although he was saved by God, he was seriously injured and his combat strength was less than 50%. After the black robe was broken, Xiao Wuji finally saw the true face of this man. He saw that this man's head was very big, but his eyes were very small. His face was full of flesh, and he vomited blood while opening his mouth to reveal sharp teeth. In addition to his facial features, this man's body was also very strange. His upper body was thick, his lower body was thin, and his fingers were as thin as chicken feet, which turned out to be a deformity. And Xiao Wuji finally recognized the identity of this person. "I thought someone was hiding his head and tail, wearing a black robe and pretending to be a ghost. It turned out to be the North Sea Crocodile King. No wonder you don't dare to show your true colors to others. If I were you, if I looked like this, I would have killed myself with a knife. How could I live in this world just to make people laugh at me?" The golden-faced Lion King looked at the North Sea Crocodile King and laughed sarcastically. The sound rumbled like thunder, reaching every corner of the Li mansion, and everyone heard it. You've gone too far." Being wantonly ridiculed by the golden-faced Lion King, the North Sea Crocodile King was so angry that he spit out a mouthful of blood again, and his face became even paler. He, the North Sea Crocodile King, roamed the rivers and lakes, killed countless people, and thought he was superior to others. But there is only one thing about the North Sea Crocodile. The shame of the king is his congenital deformity. The North Sea Crocodile King, formerly known as Ding Shui Crocodile, is a casual cultivator in Bihai. This man was born without a father or a mother. To be precise, because he was born with a congenital deformity, he was abandoned by his biological parents after birth. But he was lucky and was adopted by a beggar. However, the beggar did not adopt the crocodile out of pity, but wanted to use the crocodile's deformity to deceive the world's sympathy and ask for money. There is one of the most cruel and vicious activities in the world, called harvesting and cutting. Those who do this kind of thing are the most vicious and vicious among professional beggars. They artificially create some cripples or monsters as a guise to win the sympathy of the world and get a lot of money from passers-by. The crocodile was born with a deformity, which is the best raw material for harvesting and harvesting. Following the old beggar, the crocodile wandered around, not knowing what to do with it. How much suffering! But he was lucky enough to survive. And because he had been bullied for many years, Crocodile hated everything in the world. As time passed, the hatred in his heart became heavier and heavier, and finally when he was 11 years old, the year broke out. That night, Ding Shui Crocodile stabbed the old beggar in the neck with a piece of bamboo, killing the benefactor and enemy who had fed him but brutally abused him. After killing the first person, Ding Shui the crocodile was out of control, and the murderous beast in his heart was completely released from the cage. I don't know whether Ding Shui Crocodile is lucky or unlucky. Ding Shui Crocodile suffered a lot before he was 11 years old, and narrowly escaped death countless times. But after he was 11 years old, Ding Shui Crocodile encountered many strange encounters. It seemed that his destiny had been changed. It was unknown which senior master Ding Shui Crocodile had inherited, but he suddenly possessed 4.7 peerless martial arts. At the age of 26, Ding Shui Crocodile became famous. In the Jianghu, I don't know how many young heroes from well-known upright families or martial arts families have been defeated by Ding Shui Crocodile. However, because Ding Shui Crocodile was cruel and merciless, the famous disciples and young heroes who fought with him were either dead or maimed. Therefore, Ding Shui Crocodile formed a grudge against many martial arts sects. In addition, Ding Shui Crocodile was born with deformity and ugly appearance, which disgusted the famous sects even more, so that they rejected him and labeled him as an evil figure. Ding Shui Crocodile he must retaliate, so naturally he was not willing to be wronged. He also looked down on those hypocrites from well-known and upright families, so he gave blood for blood and tooth for tooth. If someone targeted him, he would kill the person. If someone was chasing him, he would kill the person in return. Moreover, it was not enough to kill the pursuer, he had to kill the opponent's entire family before stopping. Finally, Ding Shui Crocodile killed too many people and committed too many murders to kill the family, so that he became a big devil in the martial arts world and suffered many attacks. The sects joined forces to attack. But Ding Shui Crocodile was very lucky, or he was extremely lucky. Being hunted by many big sects, Ding Shui Crocodile narrowly escaped death several times, but he escaped every time. Not only that, he narrowly escaped death every time. Ding Shui Crocodile will have adventures, and after returning to the martial arts world again, his skills will be greatly enhanced, and he will break through to the Grand Master realm that countless warriors in the martial arts world dream of.